Nadim is our great friend. I've known Nadim since I was a little tyke. I would say like first or second grade, I would say.
Dude.
And then later down the road, John became friends with you, and we do a lot of cool shit together.
Yeah, from childhood rivals to best friends.
Yeah.
Childhood rivals. Wait a minute. You guys beefed? You guys used to beef?
Yeah, I did not like Nadim back in the day. We
Oh my God. Shooting each other with airsoft guns and throwing matches at each other. We went hard. But
it was like
That sounds more like childhood games.
It was all just like a group of friends, but I mean, I feel like we kind of had this little rivalry between us, if you will.
That's what happens. You got two alphas.
No, he lived right next to our mutual friend Luke, and then like he would always be the neighbor kid, and I would be over there like, Luke's my friend.
Yeah, we would be competing for best friendship because I was Luke's friend before he went to school, and then like all his school friends came, and then me and Trey were like, no, I'm his real friend.
Where's Luke now?
Working for the fucking NASA, just being a badass.
Is he still in Michigan?
No.
So the moral of the story is fuck Luke. He left. You guys are friends now, and Luke is he ditched the crew.
No, he's doing big brain shit.
He's killing it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm just joking.
Praise Luke. He brought us together. But yeah. No, it's cool. It's crazy how things work out like that.
But literally, yeah, like first grade, and then like we probably lost touch for, I don't know, 10 plus years, you know? And then we kind of grew up a little bit, and we're like, hey, you're doing creative shit, I'm doing creative shit. Like, let's rekindle this. Like, I remember you type shit. So.
It's interesting how that always happens, because it does seem to happen like that. Like a lot of the people from your childhood that you didn't think you'd spend time with, you do now. I mean,
this man right here, I would say is the oldest friendship that I have that I see on a regular basis.
Yeah, same.
For sure.
It's interesting. It's like both sides of the coin, because sometimes you have people who you thought you'd be close with and see every day for the rest of your life, and I'm like, I check in every 6 months to a year, and I'm like, love you, hope you're well.
Your childhood just gets taken away from you, and then you're thrown into the rat race.
Yeah, you grow up. Well, people just, it's not a bad thing. Everyone just grows in different directions. But it's cool when it's like we have this connection and our paths have grown us closer together it could have gone the opposite way. For a lot of people, it did,
I'm being cynical about it.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so we've known Nadim, Trey, you get it. Trey's known him a lot longer. But when I first met Nadim, it was for a lot of your musical stuff that was going on, and then we took it a step further. And
your pits are looking mighty nice right now, man. I like them.
No, that shirt looks great on you.
I was
too sweaty.
I was infatuated by the pits. I couldn't stop staring. You can stay like that. I would prefer.
I'm airing out. That's why I wore this shirt in the first place. I told him I was sweaty before this podcast, because I was running around like crazy and doing chores.
I don't smell it, so I'm chilling.
No, they don't stink.
Oh yeah, it's just water coming out of there.
Yeah, they don't stink.
I'm gonna periodically hit that thing on purpose.
It's okay.
We need to add that to the intro. The little dong.
Yeah, it sounds like a gong. It sounds like a very unique gong sound.
Okay, so back to it. Nadim, we got involved with him through his musical career. He is a very talented musician all around. I actually knew Nadim very, not even acquaintances. I just knew who you were, because when I worked at Potbelly's, you would come in and sing sometimes.
Dude.
And then also, I remember one time, I think I was like maybe 19, maybe 20, and we were in the ARB one day, and you were playing on your guitar and singing, and
wow,
I was like, dude, this dude sounds exactly like John Mayer. And I know that you probably hate that, but I was like, who's this guy?
No, that's an honor.
He's just like serenading the wildlife right now.
You just hear it through the grass and
and
then the arb,
and then you talked to me and we dapped it up, and you introduced me or introduce yourself to me, and you might not even remember this. It was probably just a random ARB encounter for you, but I remember it.
Whoa.
And I was like, wow, and I was walking away kind of confused. I was like, what?
Like, who the fuck?
Well, no, I was like, no, exactly. I was like, that guy was way nicer and charismatic than half the people that I encounter on a daily basis. Oh. And I thought that was interesting, because like years later when I met you, it's kind of the same thing, where you're just like an intense beam of sunshine.
Dude, I love you. Thank you. That's a very kind thing. He compares me to John Mayer and says I'm an intense beam of sunshine.
This is funny, because another person,
to this podcast weekly.
Another person has said this before too, when they were like,
drop therapy.
Yeah, they were listening to the podcast, and they were like, dude, every single person that gets on your show, you say that there's some like mentor, and I'm like, yeah,
because they are. There's a reason we bring these people onto this podcast,
and Nadim is definitely one of them. I remember early on when we kind of transitioned from just doing the small time stuff into getting more serious. You really helped us with like a lot of business management techniques, negotiation techniques, like how to keep, because I customer service was always something for me that I was like into and like good at, but the professionalism side of it, from being like behind a bar and compared to like talking to somebody and negotiating contracts, especially with like business people that have like lots of money that are trying to not give it to you, but take what they want from you. Yeah,
I think we grew up together in that way around the same time. I'm just lucky I have a lot of time on my hands to read and listen and study all these books and shit. So I was like, yo, I think some of this might be relevant right now. I'm glad it was.
What do you do now full time? Because besides being a musician,
primarily focused on music. Everything else is supplementing and leading to that. But I don't know. I've always been like, there was a time where I just wanted to be a musician. I feel like my whole life so far has been a process of yes and, where like, first I was just a guitarist, right? I was like, I want to be the next Slash. I want to be like an electric guitar god. And then I
remember you like back then.
Is that what it was? It was all like,
like metal shredding. That was
like
all
Motley
I did.
Crue.
Yes,
Hell
exactly. But I was on Guns N' Roses. I was a Guns N' Roses fan, so I would have said fuck Motley Crue at the time.
I used to love Guns N' Roses, but I read a little too much about Axl Rose, and then I was like, I hate that dude.
Yeah, complicated personalities. Yeah. But no, so then, I started singing and rapping, and then from there, but basically, not to go through the whole thing, the point is, at a certain point, I was like, oh, I'm just a musician. And then I sort of realized, like, I actually am really interested in, like, business and organization and, like, management and all that kind of stuff. So, and then it led me to marketing. So I'm basically some sort of jack of all trades, I guess. I think the focus is on art, but somewhere where art and commerce meet. So I work in marketing. I work for venues. I do, I teach kids on the side, some mentorship stuff, and make music.
I think that probably came from like your initial like making music and stuff, or this is an assumption, at least this is kind of what happened to me personally, but like getting into this creative flow or this art per se, and then you're just what am I trying to say here?
You're confronted with all the business.
Well, yeah, you just have you have to just wear so many different gloves. So it's like you have your business, your manager, your marketer, yada yada. So then you're obviously learning about all that stuff and finding into those different veins.
Well, no, exactly. I mean, I think that's the thing that I've gotten clearer and clearer on over time. Is it's like most artists just want to be artists, and they're like allergic to business, and they hate that shit, and they feel like they literally get upset when you start talking about business because like I don't want to think about that. I just want to think about art. And I was like that. For sure. Like, I think all artists are. And it's sort of not a bad thing. It's like you're protecting your art. You're protecting where you come from.
You also don't want to have to deal with all the bullshit.
Right. But then what I realized, and this was studying some of the greats from like, I don't know, J. Prince, Master P, Jay-Z, a lot of hip-hop guys who really, I mean, Frank Zappa, if you want to go back before hip-hop. But it's like, if you just want to be the artist, you sacrifice ownership. You sacrifice control of your career and of your life. You sign away your name and your rights. And a lot of guys who did that regretted it later, like Prince, like Michael Jackson, like whoever. And so I started to realize, like, I had some opportunities when I was younger, right? Like, and I won't name names or say anything, whatever. But basically, there was a record label that was like my dream to be on that label since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I somehow found a direct connection to that label, right? And they were like, we want to introduce you to the VP of A&R for this label. And like, they wanted to manage me. And I realized through that whole experience, they're really good people and I appreciate them. They're looking out for me. But something occurred to me where it was like, I really want to be successful and famous, but I really need to be in control of my destiny. I'm really not willing to sacrifice freedom. I realized freedom was my highest need in life, and over everything else. It's not that I don't want any of the other stuff. It's just that this has to come first. Because if I have money and success, but I'm working for someone else and don't have any say over my future, then I'm going to be just as miserable as I would be otherwise. And so it just became very clear that the people who control their own destinies learn to manage their own business and set their feelings about it aside and learn the skills to not be taken advantage of. Because you guys know this, in every entertainment industry and basically in every industry in the world, it's like, let's say focus on entertainment, artists get taken advantage of, right? Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Yeah, totally.
Love it. Great, because it's too late. But no, I mean, like, artists get fucked over all the time. And most of them don't realize it until 10 years later. So at the time I was being offered contracts and I didn't know what the contracts meant, but I knew enough to know that it wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm sorry, I can't sign this unless I'm with it. And at the time it feels like terrifying. Am I giving up my chance? And it's like, no, this isn't my chance. I'm not putting my life in any person's hand. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that long story short, that's what led me to getting involved in the business side and the marketing side. And then it just became fun. And it's just something that's interesting and I'm passionate about. And I realized, like, whether it's through one of our joint projects, Whip Jams, where it's like, we can help other artists with that too. We can put them on and market them and promote them and get the word out. And then we can also meet with them and teach them and share this knowledge and also learn from them, right? I'm not saying I have anything figured out, but like, you know, a lot of the artists that we've worked with, I've talked to and been like, hey, I think this might be a good strategy for this. And they'll tell me what they're doing. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do that. That's fucking smart. So it's like, yeah, it just became something I'm interested in as a human being.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you see it at the highest levels. We'll get to that later, but it's cool to see how it plays out in the industry, you know?
Definitely. So that brings me to another thing. You mentioned Whip Jams, and to even bring it back a little bit more, during the beginning stages of Drop.Creative, before we did the whole entire name change from TSLC, we were doing work with Nadim, and we were thinking about other things. And I don't know how much you want me to not reveal or reveal about that.
About other projects we were doing? You could say what you want. If it needs to be cut out, and cut it out. But also, I just have to say, I forgot to say this when you mentioned it earlier. You guys are the first people I ever made a video with.
Yeah.
I never
Which
did.
one?
I think the first thing we did was Hurricane.
Yeah. The
was your
live,
first
the live
video?
performance in your basement.
Yeah,
That was a blast.
It was like, this is like being an artist who's out of touch with what it means I was like, oh, I'll get famous and then someone will make my videes. You know what I mean? It was like, not like, oh, you make videos and that's part of like releasing and promoting and getting your art to people. So you guys, all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, that was a fun video shoot. I love you too.
That's a blast.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was cool.
But anyway, back to what you were saying.
I was talking about like the bigger idea that we had behind Drop initially.
Oh, just a media company. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. Well, let's see where it ends up, right? Mm-hmm. But generally, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of problems in media, and we could address them, especially through art.
I mean, I think our overarching idea with that whole company was it kind of being this umbrella, if you will, to where it kind of has this Whip Jams and like the Around Town and other different series like that, if you will, to where it's like this trickle down thing to where it's all kind of coming back to the same place, to where then it would be viable to us, but then also the artists that attended to in any of those different series. So
totally. I mean, I think what's happened in the short term, right, is we've all gotten very focused on the individual first steps in front of us to establish ourselves, which I think is the right thing to do, right? It doesn't make sense to run after 30 things at once. It makes sense to get a foothold in a few places. Mm-hmm. You guys are doing it in your realm. I'm doing it in my realm. Everyone we work with is doing it in their own realms, and that's sick. But I think the core philosophy of what Drop is about, right, what we started with together, and I think which is still true, and it's just a matter of how it plays out over the next number of years, is the major media companies in the world, right? Most of them are not run by the creatives and don't have necessarily creatives' best interest in mind. They'll compromise with them, and some of them do have good intentions. I'm not trying to say, oh, every corporation's evil. I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's anyone running a media company with our perspectives. No. And I just think that that's an important one, and especially when it comes from, like, actually it is good that we're talking about it, because if any of this goes anywhere, now it's on the record what we stand for.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
that's why I wanted to bring
that whole
entire topic up, anyways, was because I mean, obviously, like you said, that's something that's on the prospects. It's nothing that we've really attacked head on recently, and one of the reasons was because of how much manpower it takes, and it makes you realize that those giant web companies that are like Vox or anything like that have a big pocket. But yeah, also just because, like, one of the things that when we first started was the fact that you hated contracts, and not contracts, but you know what I'm talking about, the record labels and the exec and like the artists getting taken advantage of. So you tried to give, and this is exactly what was behind Whip Jams, was a platform for artists so they don't get taken advantage of, because we had better intentions, I guess, so to say. But then
it's just an extra boost, if you will, or an extra like free skipping stone for artists, if you will.
Right.
Instead of getting boosted by a record label, if we had something that had the credibility of such, like a media company where we could boost it through Whip Jams or like the Blind Pig or other places like that. And then even the thing where you were like, we can bring food into this. Let's do like local cuisine, like, which was actually a dope idea for like small restaurants.
We still got a lot of ideas in our pocket.
Dude, there's a lot. Do you still have the actual business plan in your pocket that you carried around? You have it in your pocket right now?
It's in my jacket over there.
Yeah, this dude's been carried around a business plan for like 5 years in his pocket on a single sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Pretty dedicated.
It's interesting, too, how it evolves over time. Because I think when we started... I mean, okay, first of all, just to address what you were saying, yes, that is the long-term goal, is to build and control a platform with the best interests stated from the beginning and built on that philosophy.
Yeah.
So that it can't, I mean, you know, anything can be corrupted. We're all human beings, but I think you have a better shot if you build with a team of like-minded people who were on board with this vision from the beginning and who have stated their purpose publicly. You know what I mean? So that it's like, hold us accountable. This is what we say we want to do. See where we're at, and when it happens, hold us accountable.
And I think it's kind of like the building block of all small business at the beginning is just being able to do it with other people that are like-minded with you, because like a lot of people will come forward and be like, how did you do this or how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I couldn't have done it without the help of my business partner or like the other people that I've been with or like my mentors or other things like that.
Right.
And even Wu-Tang Clan said it, like, get with a sick tight clique and go all out, because if you don't and you're trying to do this all solo, you're not really not really, you know, gonna jump as far.
Yeah. No, and all right, thank you for mentioning the Wu-Tang Clan. The RZA is one of the biggest inspirations. His 5-year plan and his whole I mean, he's like one of the great leaders in business. Not just in hip hop.
Some of the books that I have that were given to me by my father, actually, that I read on leadership and stuff like that. When I was Googling them, one of the articles that came up was like, books that are on the RZA's shelf. And I was like, oh shit, that's one of them. That's crazy. You know?
Have you read his book?
No.
He has a really cool book.
What's the name of it?
Well, I think there's 2. There's like the Wu-Tang Manual, and then there's... I'm trying to remember what the name of it. I'll get it to you, but I have it. I have it at home. I'll let you borrow the copy.
So this man right here probably reads more books than I know anyone. Yeah. But not necessarily reads. You audiobook everything, right?
I audiobook like 90%. The last physical book I read was probably the most important book I've read in the last number of years, which was Jay Prince's autobiography. Do you guys know who Jay Prince is?
No.
So Jay Prince, directly and indirectly, is responsible for both Floyd Mayweather and Drake.
Okay.
Let's just start there.
Is this Floyd's...
No. So Jay Prince... started out as a street hustler in Houston, Texas, right? Like in that whole world, and basically transitioned to owning one of the first and one of the most influential independent rap labels, Rap-A-Lot Records. So Scarface and the Ghetto Boys, that's Jay Prince.
Okay.
And he has since then been a massive figure in music, in entertainment, and in business. So his autobiography, I actually recommend that to everyone. Because it's a really, I mean, one, it's like a really I'm not saying I agree with everything the dude says or thinks or how he operates, but this is someone who like came from nothing and built themselves and operated in the world and has a code and principles and beliefs and a method of thinking and a way of operating that like we could all learn from. But also the way he talks about like the racial situation in America and what it's like to come from that community.
Mm-hmm. You said where was he from?
He's from Houston.
Houston, okay.
Yeah, he's from the ghetto in Houston. And basically the way it just, I don't know, he just talks about it in such a way that it's so like poetically put and like it just cuts through to the human element, like right to the soul. But that book was the last book I read, and that was like a life-changing one for me. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, no, other than that, 90% of it's audiobooks. I listen to like, I don't know. I probably let's look. Let's see how many.
I need to get on the audiobooks because I listen to a lot of podcasts. But I was kind of a lot of trash podcasts.
So
it's the same thing.
I don't have to pay for
just
podcasts.
More knowledgeable.
Here's the thing. Podcasts are dope because they're good little sound bites of information, right? But when it comes to a book, that means unless it's just an autobiography, but even in that case, an expert of some sort took the time and the effort to go really deep in a subject and get everything important and organize it. So you could listen to an hour-long podcast on a subject, and you might get the overall points, but you're not going to deeply understand the subject unless you listen to the 10.
How long are audiobooks? Like if you say you have like a 400-page book.
Short. I don't know because I don't check the pages. Basically, the shortest audiobooks I listen to are like an hour and a half. The longest ones are 25 to 40 hours.
Dang. Are they split up by like chapters and stuff too?
Yeah.
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 And so you can like you don't have to scrub. through all that stuff.
No, you can skip. Yeah, you can skip. Some of them are organized better than others. Some of them are just like, they don't name the chapters. It's just like track 1, 2, 3, da, 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 da. Some of them actually have it all listed. But this is like, I'll point it to the camera after. This is like all the books I've read since the pandemic started.
What app? Is that just Apple?
This is Apple Books.
Wow, that is a lot. You're still scrolling.
Yeah. I have book recommendations for days. I think reading is the most important thing. And if you listen actually to the most successful people in the world, what is the one habit they all have in common? They all read a shit ton.
Shitload, yeah.
They all read a shit ton, because why would you not be taking in new knowledge and information available to you virtually for free? Like, here's the thing. I go and put on a book. I can change the speed. I listen to most books at 1.5 times speed. So it's like, and it's fucking sick. Because, like, there are some books that you can't do that with, right?
Especially like if it's downloading information.
Right. Like, you can't do it with something.
I'm not a speed reader. I'm a speed listener.
That's right.
Get on my level.
And like, sometimes you can't do that because it's like, you really, if it's like a dense subject or something you're not familiar with, it's like hard to take in.
Yeah.
But I also reread certain books because it's just like, one thing is there's stuff that I'm just like vaguely interested in. I want to just like get an idea. But most of the shit I read is like, these are strategies, philosophies, ways of thinking, people who I really admire, and I want to study their paths in life. I don't want to just hear the information. It's one thing to like understand something on a mental level and be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? It's another thing entirely to internalize it and for that information to be a part of you to the point where you can talk about it like it's who you are.
Yeah.
Because it becomes second nature.
Would you say that's like a 2 times listen for you to be able to do that?
I feel like it's got to be a cumulative.
It really depends on the book, because I think as human beings we learn differently depending on what it is. Like, there are some things that are like, it's just so fascinating and exciting and like emotionally it gets me going to the point where I read it once and I remember every fucking thing because I'm like, this is crazy. Other books, the book I've listened to the most, I've listened to probably 25 times.
Sheesh.
You know what I mean? So like, it depends on what it is. Am I trying to? Is it just like, sometimes I'll read a book and it's like, oh, this is an interesting, like, you know, let's say the Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs.
Okay.
Really dope. Actually, all of Walter Isaacson's books. I just got a new one called The Innovators. It's like about all of them that I haven't read yet. But that book I read once, right? Obama's most recent book I read once. I want to re-listen to those because actually this is an interesting idea. It's like, sometimes I think it's like a Buddhist philosophy that it's like we think we know things, and so we like avoid repetition, right? Because that's the ego. Because the ego's like, well, I already know this. I already heard this. I don't need. It's like, no, go deeper. Because you could hear this one thing when you're here on your life. If you hear it here, you're only going to remember the things that are relevant to you at that moment in your life. So 5 years from now, or a year, or 6 months, or 3 weeks from now,
you can listen to it again with a whole different perspective.
Right. And the things that'll stand out from it are totally different.
Yeah.
So I might re-listen to Steve Jobs' biography or Obama's book, just because I want to be like, what was that story again? What was this about? And then I just want to know, because it'll hit me differently because I'm in a different place in my life than I was when that happened.
Yeah.
Versus like certain books that are really like Think and Grow Rich, I think is the most important. It's like the oldest self-help book from like the 30s. A lot of people reference that.
Yeah.
Take everything written by an old white man in the 30s with a grain of salt, right? But that shit is like the philosophy that you see everyone successful that you look up to either consciously practices it or has unconsciously learned it. So that I listen to regularly over and over again. As a Man Thinketh is another thing like that. Like, there are these certain things where I'm a flawed human being who gets negative and anxious and jaded and impatient and stressed and afraid. And I need to be constantly conditioning my mind with how I want to think and who I want to be in the world, which I can't do if I like think about what is most of small talk? It's like bitching. Most of small talk is complaining and talking about things you don't like. Right. What is the news? It's all the bad things in the world. What are most shows? It's all the dramatic, negative, fucked up interactions. So it's if we don't, and then what is self-talk? We're all negative, fearful beings. So it's like, if you're not consciously like
working toward conditioning that.
Yeah, right. Conditioning your brain otherwise.
Right. If you're not consciously unlearning that and reconditioning yourself, you stand no chance. You're going to be unhappy and depressed, you know?
Yeah.
And I've lived it. I can say that from experience. It's not hypothetical.
Yeah, I'm definitely in a transitional period right now with my own life too. And it's one of those things where you just get sick of something, you know? So you just have to like attack it head on. But it's one of those things where you don't realize what's going on when it's happening because you like might be in you're too deep in the woods to see the trees or see the forest.
Yeah.
But another thing that you talked about was like small talk or like people bitching about it, or bitching about stuff. There was a quote that I heard from somebody a long time ago, and it was like, small minds discuss people and like big minds discuss ideas. And it's true. Like if you're around other people, and I get this so much where people are just like bitching or gossiping or this and that, like a little bit of hot goss here and there. It could be funny or like, interesting. But if it's a repetitive thing where like that same group of people continue to do that, or like, things just get too much, I do the same thing. I step back and I'm like, yo, get me out of this like mental gutter of a pit. Like I don't want to be sitting here gossiping about other people. Like we have to be discussing ideas. And even like what you're saying right now, I'm taking it in as like, oh, Nadim's right. Like I should probably listen to some audiobooks and do some other like, like that's a condition.
Sure.
That's conditioning.
For sure makes me want to go read a book right now.
Oh hell yeah, that's what.
But a phrase to go with like what you're saying that I always reference too is, I've seen that episode before. Yeah. Like I've seen, like, I don't know, you guys both know, like I don't hang out much, quote unquote, Right. And like just because I've seen that episode before, it's like, what are we gonna do? Go hang around and sit around a coffee table and shoot the shit? Like certain people, yes, it's great to catch up and that's obviously healthy and stuff, but like to do that on a daily, weekly basis, it's like, whew, I got other things I got other things to condition my brain with, if you will.
Totally. No, I'm with. Yeah, like I'll go to a New Year's party like once a year. That's like my fill.
Mm-hmm. A New Year's party once a year. Where's the second New Year's party in the year?
But then you see everyone there, and they're like, "Yo, let's hang out, man," and you're like, "Yeah,
yeah, like yeah." No, I mean that's the thing. Like I feel like, and it's partially selfish and it's partially selfless. I can only really hang with people who are willing to have these conversations, because I will I'm going to talk about this shit. I'm sorry. It's just who I am. And I'll drive people crazy.
A lot of people get weirded out too when you start talking about shit like this. They like don't want to think about it, or like, they're like, man, this person's a little too emotional for me, or this or that. And it's just like, okay. Yeah. My bad.
I heard someone say it's like, you kind of have to have that higher level of intensity if you want to achieve anything important in life. Like, it's like you don't do that being like...
Because you're the average of all your friends. You need somebody above you to pick you up or to help you realize, like, yo, I should be doing what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, I want to surround myself with people who know better than I do. Did that pause, or are we...
Yeah, we got a 30-minute record time on the video aspect of this portion, but the
audio's rolling.
Audio's still rolling.
Boom. But yeah, no, I mean, I lost my thought, but basically...
Dull people.
Yeah, but like not even to say dull people. Yeah. It's just like conditioning your mind and that way of thinking and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, I think is right. I mean, it sounds so elitist, like coming out of my mouth, like I don't hang out with anyone who's gonna talk who doesn't talk business, but like in the sense like
where's the money? I don't talk broke, dog.
Well, to
what
me,
language is that?
For me, it's just got to have some. I guess maybe not all the time. I'm sure if I was talking to myself, I get sick of myself for sure, right? But like
all day,
I feel like
it's only a problem when you start answering yourself.
Right. Yeah, there you go. But there's some element for me that just like all I want to do in life. I like being right. Right. I like being right. I like thinking I know my shit. That's all good for the ego and it feels good. But ultimately, all I really want is to be better. I want to be better and do better, have a bigger impact, be a better person, and grow and evolve. So if I don't feel like what I'm doing or spending my time around is helping me do that, then I just get really anxious. And it's not better than, like, I think I heard this quote, I don't remember what it was, but it's like everyone wants different things out of life. I used to be way more judgmental, right? But then I realized, like, I don't know, everyone's just on their own path. Some people want to just like, oh, this was the idea. Some people want to change the world, and some people just want to be in harmony with the world. And it's like, that's a cool way of thinking about it. Like, I know a lot of people who just want to like there's nothing wrong with just wanting to find peace. It's like hard enough to just be a human being and get through life that it's like
get in that cruise control lane and just like fit in, kind of just
right. Or just find whatever makes you happy. Like some people, I have a friend, she's like, she's always talked about how a lot of our friends are like, these very ambitious, we want to do this and achieve that and da-da-da. And she's like, I never felt like I had like a passion. My passion is I just want to like have life experience and travel, and like I'll do whatever work allows me to do that. And it's like, I remember her saying that to me and I was like, wow, that's beautiful. I kind of wish I could think like that.
That's what you two were talking about, like change the world or be in harmony with the world. Like changing the world, that seems like almost impossible. It's hard, you know, like there are corporations that are purposely meant to like lobby to like make things difficult for you to change for the better of humanity. That's just my cynical perspective. But like also finding harmony, which is that happiness thing. I feel like on our last guest, Noah Mendez, that's kind of what I was getting at when he was talking about like, I want to be in a shack on the lake for 3 months to take this video. And it's like, he's not looking to get the dopest shot. He's doing it because he knows it's impactful and it makes him happy. And like the job or whatever he's doing at the time is kind of his like avenue to that place. So that versus like being in a lane that you're just comfortable in, you know, because it's like, I feel like there's an in-between there that can be achieved.
And like changing the world per se, like doesn't mean like ending world hunger, you know, or, but it can be as something as micro as like, you know, making someone feel good with like, for your case, a song or like a video, giving someone like a great feeling out of that. Like that's like, hell yeah. You know?
I have to back that. I have to disagree with you there just because I think that we as human beings, I think it's part of being afraid is that we it's scary to look at what we could do because it's a lot. And like, of course we can go overboard, but like I've learned over and over again, never to underestimate the effect that one person can have. Yeah. Because you just don't know. Like, here's the thing. Well, you could have a relatively unimpactful life. Right? You're just going through doing your thing. You're focused on you and your family and your friends, and that's all you give a shit about. You could have one interaction with someone where you say something that really just clicks with them. That person could pass that idea or that connection along, and or even if you just show them love when they're in pain and they remember you as the person who did that, then they're going to go do that for the next person. And maybe the next person they do it for is the person who cures cancer or does some world-changing shit. You never know the impact. Like, I want to have a big direct impact, but I'm also like not at all unaware of the fact that like when I work with students at the Neutral Zone and I just pass on the best I can and try to be a positive, loving, supporting influence for these kids, I have no idea where that could go, but I know that's just as important as writing music that can change the world or whatever the fuck. But like there's a really cool on top of books, I love documentaries and shit. On Apple TV. It's called 1971. And
I've gotten recommended this already.
Bro, go watch it. It is so good. It is literally like, I don't even need to say a word. You want to know about how humans can change the world, how one person or a group of people or like-minded people can actually change the fucking world? Like, go watch that.
Yeah,
it's real. I'll have to run that 7-day free subscription to go watch that real quick.
That's right.
Trey,
Apple TV.
Trey, side note, dude. Trey has so many subscriptions to things, and like since we're hooked to the same calendar, like every week I'll get this random blink, and I'm like, bling, cancel subscription to blank. I'll be like, Trey, didn't you just cancel that subscription like 2 weeks ago? He's like, yeah, new email, new subscription.
That's right.
And the calendar goes off and it's like cancel subscription. And then there was this one time when you were like,
that was just a couple weeks ago.
Like, fuck, I forgot to cancel a subscription. And I was doing my taxes this year and I see like I got charged like a bunch for like a monthly subscription for this. You're like, God damn it.
Oh, and then
it's a dangerous game to play.
Hopefully PNC isn't listening to this. I called them and said,
don't admit fraud. Trey didn't commit fraud.
No, you know, it was just someone else.
Trey doesn't commit fraud.
It was weird. It was weird charges to my credit card, and I have no idea what happened. You know, thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
Oh my god!
That's like, totally not
what
true.
What is this subscription?
It fucking solves world hunger. That's what it is.
That's right. Yeah, the amount you pay, it better.
$1,000 a month. Boom. Solved.
Oh, it's hilarious.
So Lex Friedman is this guy who's from Russia who does this other podcast that he's pretty cool.
Oh, I've heard that. I don't know if I've listened to his podcast, but I've heard of people who've been on his podcast. Yeah.
Lex he defected from the USSR. So like he was a Soviet scientist and came to America and defected. Like he, you know, Putin does not like him. Yeah. And now he's like considered like one of the most influential minds. Blah 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 blah. He's like, if Joe Rogan didn't have biases and he was like 400 million times more intelligent, that's Lex Friedman. And he talks like a robot. But he just recently had Mark Zuckerberg on his podcast, which is, if that doesn't show you how prestigious this guy is and like recognized in the community. And they were going over, well, first of all, the intro to that podcast. He does an epilogue or a prologue. What's the intro?
Prologue.
I don't know.
I read too much to not know that.
Yeah,
I feel like an asshole. They don't have those in books. They're in audiobooks. They don't put those in the audio versions. I have an excuse.
But he does that before all of his podcasts, and he gives like this 2-minute monologue. Well, this is a monologue. He gives like with you. I'm sorry. He gives like this 2-minute monologue about like the cynicism that we have in the world today, and just like how social media has brought all that on. And it's like I was listening to it in the shower this morning, and like I almost like cried because it was like such a beautiful, like harmonistic way of looking at both sides of everything that's going on in the world today and recognizing the beauty that's in there. And then he brought Mark Zuckerberg on, and then they started talking about metaverse, and he kind of railed him in the same way that anybody else would, and he'll bring up like the hottest touch points with Facebook or
that sounds cool.
It was cool. And he brought up like the documentary of, what was it called? The one that came out on Netflix at the beginning of COVID, and everybody was like, whoa, they're using us as an advertisement.
Was it The Social Dilemma?
Social Dilemma, yeah. So he'll like throw that stuff in his face, and then it's just so interesting to hear Mark like come back with all these retorts that are like,
well, Baby Ray's barbecue sauce.
I'm not a robot.
Baby Ray's.
But it was just interesting to hear. It was just interesting to hear like just like the depth of that conversation, because when we're talking about changing the world and stuff like that we're talking about, like it really gets you thinking like, how is Meta about to change the world, like especially with VR
for the
glasses.
Better.
Yeah, no, exactly. And he goes on for the better, but then he says it's for the better, and Lex is like bringing up these statistics about like suicide rates, Instagram, mental health, yada yada yada, and just being able to hear Mark try to defend those things. It totally sounds like a robot, and I didn't come out of it with. I literally thought I was like, I'm going to come out of this with just a little bit of more shred of like humanizing Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't, but it was just really interesting. And I'm sorry, I just threw that out there because we were talking about like changing the world and stuff.
I mean, that's a point that I think it was probably a shower thought either yesterday or today.
That was an actual literal shower thought.
Dude, shower thoughts. I probably have the most clear thoughts in the shower.
I never understood the subreddit shower thoughts because I was like, man, I never think of cool shit like that.
Dude, I don't know why. I think it's just the water.
The Ron Swanson shower thoughts are really good.
He has shower thoughts?
There's like a video. Yeah, it's like a video series. It is really funny.
Well, that's probably good. But I was just going to say like how, I mean, I'm sure past generations were filled with anxiety too, but it just seems like that these, like our generation and like everyone in like close to us, you know, it's just like such an anxiety riddled world. Like everyone that I know, you know, has anxiety to one level or another, you know?
Yeah.
To where it makes me think like 30, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, like were the people our age and stuff really like, I mean, it just seemed back then too, like it was so much like a go to college, get a job, like square kind of cut, to where like now in today's age, like again, shower thoughts in these weird, like discombobulated, like avenues, but like just how in today's day and age, I feel like people kind of like spur off into these like other possibilities of income and stuff, to where I think that might be also a result in high anxiety as well. But like I just don't like, I try and think about like our grandparents, for instance, when they were our age, like life seemed like grand back then, you know?
You're
like,
not constantly
like,
comparing yourself.
I'm not trying to either, but
no,
like,
exactly. Dude, your grandparents, I mean, for example, my grandfather worked an assembly line at
but
GM
they also,
for
like
30
went
years.
through the fucking depression.
Well, no, but
too.
still, like listen, here, let me finish this thought. He worked at a GM plant for 30 years. This is still back in the day when you could take a 6-rack to work. So he would kill a 6-rack, 8-hour shift, come home, sit on the couch. It was a very nuclear family. My grandma would make dinner. They had 8 kids, and you know that's life. And who's going to tell you you're not doing good enough? You got a home, you've got family. Are you happy because you're doing the thing that makes you happy, like we were talking about earlier, or are you happy because like your family and everybody's taken care of?
And when that's just like the way of life.
And when you hop on Instagram nowadays, it's like, yo, this person's got a yacht. Nadim's got a song coming out tomorrow or tonight at midnight.
Tonight at midnight, that's right.
Like some other production company's got that gig. Like there are so many other things being thrown in your face where you're like, get this FOMO, and it's intense. It's super intense. I think we don't try to compare ourselves, and people say we don't compare ourselves, but inherently there's always going to be something in your face where you're like, I want that.
I mean, yeah, in today's day and age, there is such a comparative nature to all of us because we are so just fed all this information of what everyone else in the world is doing. And I feel like it's a weird world. But just real quick side note, by the time you guys are listening to this episode, everything on Nadim's new song is out now, so go stream that shit. Nadim Azzam and all the socials.
That's right. New song, Nightwalk.
Yeah, Nightwalk.
Video coming soon, produced by these boys.
Yeah. Yep. I guess I mean this episode is dropping tomorrow, so
yeah, it is.
By now, it'll be today.
Yeah. Well, what are you getting at?
But no, okay. So I feel like there's a few things to unpack there. One thing is like the general mental health stuff, where it's like, is it that there's more of it now, or that it wasn't talked about then, or that we didn't have language for it? And I think it's like,
I think a little bit of both.
Of course. Everything in life is a paradox. It's all now. Right. Right. But I mean, I think like there wasn't time and space and language to address a lot of this stuff for the common person. It was like, at the time it was like, oh, you had an anxiety disorder, you're depressed. That's like a really
put
serious...
you in a medical hospital. Like, whoa.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you were only considered depressed if you like attempted suicide. Other than anything other than that was like, I don't know, I get sad sometimes.
Suck it up, chief.
Right.
Oh no, I get sad sometimes.
10 years ago, 15 years ago. I mean, even in the last few years, like therapy was like so much more frowned upon.
Dude,
so I think
I love therapy.
Yeah, no, I think all right, let me make a quick point on therapy. I think every human being should have a therapist.
Totally.
I think that why would you not want someone who studies the mind? You have to find someone who fits with you as a person, but why would you not want someone who studies the mind, who is not part of your day-to-day life and doesn't have an emotional attachment to help you understand yourself and improve? We're not given a
It's the same way how you read books for certain things.
Exactly. But this is a hand-tailored expert who you get to engage with and talk to on a regular basis, who talks you out of stupid ideas and encourages your good ones.
Yeah.
And helps you understand yourself. Like everyone should have that. But anyway,
totally.
back to the point. Like I think part of it, yes, like there's a lot more focus on it and a lot more. It's just, there's so much more nuance now. It's not like you're either not an anxious person or you are. It's like all human beings experience anxiety. Humans have been experiencing the same emotions for thousands of years. But then I think the other piece of it, like you were talking about, it's like we are living in a gig economy and there's a lot less stability, right? So back in our parents' time, it was like the whole idea of like, you get a job, you go to college, you get a job, and then you can buy a house and raise a family, and you have company loyalty, and the company's loyal to you too. That doesn't exist on either side anymore for a lot of people. Like for some people, it does. There are definitely, I know friends who like, they have a job they're going to have for the next 50 years, and they like it. Right, and they're paid well, and the company treats them well enough.
Fat PTO and
right, and that's cool. But it's like, yeah, we are living in a different time. Where like, I don't know, I work 5 jobs. I break, and I like it that way. I couldn't handle. That's good for someone like me. I can't handle a 9 to 5. I don't want to be in the same place.
It's the ability to not do the same thing every day, and you're stuck on a routine.
And not to be, yeah, exactly.
Routines are good, but when you put my mind in a routine, that's when I don't like it.
Well, it's like it can be really challenging if you go to the same place every day. Like, I don't know, some people, like, everyone has different needs, right? Some people value stability more. So if you value stability, you're not going to work 4 or 5 jobs part-time because you don't get the benefits, and you're not consistently there, and they don't rely on you the same way. But I value freedom, right, as my number one. So and flexibility. So I can go where I want to go, not go where I don't want to go. If I have a bad day at work, cool, I don't have to go back there tomorrow ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I think that with the economic instability and all this stuff, I mean, yeah, it's like we're also living in crazy times, but it's like all times are crazy times. You know, it's just, we just happen to be the people living through these ones. That's another good thing about reading. When you go and start to understand history, all of a sudden, like, you know, you look at what's happening in the world right now with the Ukraine situation and Russia and the United States and China and all these power dynamics. And it's like, shit is crazy. It's terrifying. It's scary. It's unsettling. It's hard to like wrap our heads around. But if you read, like I told you guys this last time I saw you, Ray Dalio's The Changing World Order, that book is like, gives you a macro perspective of power dynamics and international power dynamics and empires and economic societies, all this stuff and how it's been changing. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is just the normal cycle of existence.
Yeah.
But we haven't been around long enough.
Power plays.
Right, to understand it. So I think I went off on a separate tangent.
No, I mean, it's the same stuff. Yeah. That's what we're here to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. Like the whole entire thing going on with Ukraine. You also said something earlier today in this podcast. You said bringing it down to the human element or something along that. Yeah. And I think this is totally irrelevant, but one of the main issues that we have in society today is like empathy blocking. Like everybody, like not everybody, but there are a lot of people out there that have trouble like being empathetic toward other people, and like it's
I see what you mean, empathy blocking. Yeah.
Like a lot of people are blocked. Like it's just hard for them to do it and like feel for other people or understand. And what was I watching one time? Where they were like, "Yo, put yourself in my shoes and imagine how bad that would suck," and then somebody's like, "Okay, let me actually do that for a second."
Like actually go there.
And they like close their eyes and then they're like, holy shit, that would suck so much. And then they like come to this epiphany and they're like, oh my God, that would totally suck. I'm so sorry that's happening to you. It's like, yeah, take a step back and actually like do that. Because a lot of people just seem to just completely like it's in one ear, like, here, give it to me. Whop, right out the other, like throw like beautiful. A frisbee. Wow.
That's such an important point. I mean, I think that's something that's been a big focus in my own life personally. Something I've been working on is like, yeah, especially when you care about what you do, it's so easy to get wrapped up in your own perspective and feel self-important and forget like all the other human beings who like, it's like, what is it they call it? It's like main character syndrome.
Main character syndrome.
Yeah, it's like, dude, everyone's their own main character. And everyone has their own thing.
We have phones, a camera. You're a main character right now on our podcast. Sure. It's our podcast, so we're main characters. Everybody's got this whole entire thing where it's like, how is this for me?
Yeah. You know? Well, and going to the empathy thing. All right, so that brings up. All right, I'm going to jump between things really quick because I want to come back on the empathy thing, but that also reminded me about like the Instagram social media era thing. I think we definitely are seeing it more now than we have in the past, and like, but it's also like I just think it's important to remember that all these mediums and tools like the internet, like television, like magazines, like newspapers, like the printing press, they just amplify human nature. They don't change it. Mm-hmm. So it's like. Human, like all this stuff that we're like, Instagram is doing this. It's like, no, human beings are doing this, and Instagram just isn't counteracting it.
That's one of the things that Mark was talking about today on the podcast. So he was like, you're asking me to solve issues that humans have had for millions of years.
Right. And it's like, he could definitely be more socially responsible. That's why, again, a media company who's not profit incentivized as their number one reason for existing, who isn't beholden to shareholders, who isn't trying to just like, make
an
money.
Actual mission statement of truth.
Right. Where it's like, if you built a media company that was for like the benefit of human beings, like that would like, it could be so much better. Actually, that brings up an important point. Like my social media feeds used to be really toxic and make me feel anxious and depressed and judge myself and worried and angry because outrage gets us to click on things, which gets us to spend more time and be served more ads and all this shit. But when you become aware of how the algorithms work, you can use it. All my social media feeds now give me positive, interesting, supportive content because all my related videos on YouTube are deeper into
like what you were talking about the other day when we were at the location, and you said about how like what China's TikTok curates versus like what America's TikTok curates.
Right, right. I mean, it's like, and that's the thing. Like, but here's the thing.
Say that for the viewers too, because
okay, yeah. I mean, basically, I heard this thing that it's like, American TikTok is all like dances and goofy shit and like just things that like, and also a lot of toxic relationship stuff. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but there's a lot of stuff that's like just very like unhealthy shit and ways of thinking.
I think it's like a generational thing where the whole entire sad boy syndrome is still like cool.
Right. Well, but again, it's just like, I think basically to put it in a nutshell that's oversimplifying and is not completely true. American TikTok amplifies a lot of the worst aspects of human culture, and TikTok in China is a completely separate app where the content that's curated and that's allowed to be shown is very different. And a lot of it is much more supportive to their citizens under what China wants their citizens to know and learn and evolve, because they're trying to be the world superpower.
Mm-hmm. So like a lot more educational and like how-tos and
sword sharpening skills.
Sure, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think we just live in a time now where it's like, but here's the thing: the algorithms are not like some evil person choosing what you're watching.
Yeah, you do that.
Right. If you consciously counteract it, you will be fed different things. And I was like, I'm like really deep in the rabbit hole of like liberal, leftist, whatever, because that's socially where I align. And then I was like, I'm being fed shit that's like just pushing me past thinking. And it's outrage culture, and I'm just on the other side of it. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Aziz Ansari's new like 30-minute stand-up special on Netflix?
No.
So good. So interesting, so good. But one of the things he talks about is like he was like talking about the vaccines, and he's like, what do you guys think of Aaron Rodgers? And he's like, fucking idiots. Like people in the crowd yelling out, and he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I disagree with him, like, you know, whatever, but like you're only calling him a fucking idiot because you're trapped in a different algorithm than he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know I know every opinion you're going to have on all these lists of issues based on what algorithm you're trapped in.
Yeah.
And it's true on both sides. And it's hard because going back to this is where actually it all comes together.
It's the social dilemma.
Right. This comes back to what you brought up though, the empathy blocking thing is I think that's the biggest problem we have now is like, again, I come from like left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like very, very left, liberal. And it's like I found myself othering and dehumanizing people on the other side of the arena, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, conservatives, fucking idiots. The world would be better if they just didn't get to vote. All this crazy shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is insane.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then the right's response to that is like, you guys are authoritarian. It's like, yo, both are true. We're like, so it's like we're all getting further and further away from the fact of, like you said, having empathy. It is hard for all human beings, and we're all pulled by all this shit. And it's like I found myself being so judgmental, and I was just like, at some point, it was just like, this can't be it.
Episode 4 of our podcast, Jack Virag, who you also know.
Love Jack.
Yeah, he literally,
Love Jack.
One time we were talking and I was doing the same thing. We were on video games and I was just talking like, man, what's going on with Trump and this and that? Like, this is all bullshit, idiots, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he was like, as I agree with you, John, like, I just have to let you know that, like, whether you're talking about a Republican or a Democrat, you're comparing McDonald's to Wendy's. Like, they're both gonna fucking kill you and then count their pocket afterwards, and they don't care. Like, they're there to line their pockets as politicians. Once again, a very cynical look. I don't like my cynicism tonight, but you know what I mean. It's just one of those things where
the cynicism is hard because it's like there's truth in that, but you can't become jaded. The world, I think that's growing up. The world is always trying to make us jaded and give up and be negative and hate. And it's good that you're like, oh, I don't like that. We don't want that. We don't want to be negative and hateful. But it's also like, yeah, there's part of it. But there are also like, it's you know what I think it comes back to? It's like, whether you're judging a Democrat or a Republican, a politician, a musician, a celebrity, a friend, an enemy, it's like human beings, we're lazy thinkers. We want to be able to label things as black and white so we can stop thinking about it and move on with our day.
Yeah.
And that functionality of the human brain is useful in some ways, but it fucks us over because you know
lack
what?
of critical thinking.
Right. Like Facebook is not an evil company because Mark Zuckerberg is evil. It's like there are a lot of things that were profit incentives for them that have gone out of their control, and they also make decisions based on what's good for their bottom line. And at the same time, there are a lot of good people who work there, and probably selfish, cynical, sinister people who don't give a fuck. Same way with politicians. It's like there are some politicians. Actually, that's why Obama's book is so good, because it gives you an insight into like what happens when you go in with "I want to change the world," and then you're like confronted with this
They're
system.
like, "Whoa, chill out there, Charlie. Take a seat. We've been running shit for a while here.
Right.
Chill out there, Bernie.
Let me show you who's really in charge."
But it's like exactly. But it's like it's not like any of those individual people are evil. It's like imagine, like you said, going into someone else's shoes. Imagine if you became a politician today and you want to change the world. And it's like, cool, you have all these ideals, but you're going to get kicked out of office in 2 years if you don't fundraise this amount. And you're not going to be around long enough to make any lasting change if you don't get with the system. And if you're not friends with people on both sides of the aisle, you're not going to be able to get a single policy passed.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden, you can sit there on your high horse and be like, I stand for all the good things in the world. Fuck those idiots.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're not in the game.
Yeah.
You're on the sidelines, and that's why you can talk shit. Because the people who are in the game can't afford that.
Yeah.
And Natalie is so helpful at pointing this out to me that I get like, I get very cynical too, right? And I get like judgmental of like my thing is I go to like, oh, they're fucking idiots.
Yeah.
I get that from I think my dad, right? But like it's just not helpful.
Yeah.
I can be frustrated, I can disagree, but as soon as you label someone and other them and dehumanize them, then it's not a fucking far cry from genocide. Genuinely, it is not a far cry from.
Are you saying because at that point, like, you don't even need them?
The distance to go from these fucking idiots, the world would be so much better if they just didn't exist, or if they didn't have the power to vote, or if they just weren't involved, right? Like one thing that I've always, it's like, you know, oh, if we could just like, all the religious people are just holding back society, and if we could just remove religion, it's like, that is such a primitive, easy way to think.
Yeah.
That it's like, it might be coming from a real frustration, but at the end of the day, it's like, we hate that as soon as the other side does it, but we feel justified doing it because, well, we're on the right side of history. Guess what? Everybody in the history of the fucking world thought they were on the right side of history. No one thinks they're the bad guy. Yeah. Everyone has main character syndrome. So it's like, it's like, you know, it's like, that's where religion gets it right. It's like, you know, the devil is within all of us. You are not that different from fucking Hitler. It's just a matter, and I don't, you know, that's a very dramatic way to say it.
Yeah.
But it's true. We're all capable of that.
I see
and
the connections that you're making.
How far it goes is different.
Yeah.
Depending on the person, right? Like, it's not that everyone is going to go to that extreme. Of course not. Most human beings are much more reasonable than that. But to think we're so reasonable that we're not capable of that is to be fucking delusional.
David Cho. Did you ever watch the Cho Show?
Which one is he?
You gotta watch David Cho. Did you ever watch Cho Show, Trey?
Yeah, like way back in the day, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it just came out like a year ago.
Who is David Cho again?
David Cho.
No, the Cho Show sounds just familiar.
Dude, that show makes me like want to cry every time I watch it.
Whoa.
David Cho, he is speaking of Facebook, he's an artist and he's Korean and he grew up in LA and he was a graffiti artist. So his background was nothing but degenerate, a lot of racial issues in his household, being like an Asian American and like adapting cultures in LA and racism throughout his life and this and that.
Sure.
But he did murals inside all of Facebook's offices way back in the day, like when they were first starting. And Mark Zuckerberg was like, I'll give you like, I don't know the number. It was something like $500,000 or $300,000 or $30,000 or something. Or you can have 1% of stock in Facebook. And he was like, I'll take the 1%. A couple years later, dude is a multi-millionaire and he goes completely off the rails. He is like partying, nonstop crazy, like he's like addicted to gambling. He was addicted to prostitution. He's like very open about his porn addiction. He's like very open sexually, it's like sexually, like men and women and everything. He was just like taking the world and just reaping it for all the benefits that he could get. Yeah. And he did a podcast with a few people that I listened to and I was like, man, I really like this guy. He's like, because now he's like way more down to earth, but every day is just a mental battle with him. And he has a show on Hulu called The Cho Show and it's got like Rainier Wilson in it. He does an episode with who's the rapper? Denzel Curry. He did an episode with Will Arnett as well, and then just like, you know, just other random celebrities. And Steve-O was in one of them. And like basically he just sits down and his whole entire house is like Pee-wee's Playhouse, but he's an artist. I'll get that. His whole entire house is like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like there's everything is covered in spray paint splattered on the walls. Like his furniture is like pizza slices, like upholstery, like it's crazy.
Dude, I know who we're talking about.
He had to look him
now.
up. Yeah. David Cho.
He does all that splatter shit.
No, he does more than splatter shit.
Well, yeah, but
he does all that splatter shit.
But no, for the record though, I was looking up. There is a Cho show back in 2008, which was a reality TV show, and that's what I remember.
Oh,
yeah.
But yeah,
I don't remember anything about it though.
But he has a lot of controversial opinions when it comes to just like who humans are, and like he attacked cancel culture because you were talking about like this whole entire thing of fuck that person or this and that, and he talks about like just a lot of stuff that happened to him like on the playground when he was a kid or this and that, and he's like, but I go to my father and I try to talk to my father about it, and people are always like, oh, like that's such a small problem, and he's like, yeah, that's a small problem, but fuck you, that's my problem. Like I'm still dealing with that. Like you can't downplay the issues that I have because they're not as big to you, they're still really big to me. And he had this whole entire spiel about cancel culture where he's like, you guys hate Donald Trump? And everybody's like, yeah, of course we hate Donald Trump. He's like, yeah, me too. But like, if like 10 years from now, he like came out of the wet work and was like, yo, I'm so sorry for all this. Like, I want to use everything that I can to like better society and like actually try to do it. Would you accept him? And everybody was just like, fuck, I don't know. And he's like, you wouldn't because you still hate him. but that's your problem. You have hate in your heart for that. And I'm not, and it's really weird. This is all just like total philosophical shit.
No,
and like
he's
really cool. Watch his TV show. They're only 30-minute episodes, and there's only 4 of them, but they're really, really good.
I'll check it out. I mean, I think that's like a really, those sort of like moral quandaries are like really tough. Because it's like, the way that I mean, obviously I don't know shit, right? But the way I like to think about it is like, at a certain point, it's the real question is like, how redeemable are people?
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
And it's like, at a certain point, the wrong you've done outweighs, what redemption your soul might have in the eyes of other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
because you fuck up once, and that's the one thing that people remember you by.
Right. Well, but like putting it differently, like, there are people who like maybe make a mistake. I don't know. It's really hard to tell because we can look at examples of people where it's like, let's say Dylan Roof, right?
This guy who shot up the church in Birmingham.
Right. Like
Mr. Bullcut. You
can tell me all day long how
reformed.
Yeah, he could be reformed and want to do good with his life, and like I'm like, no, it's too late, bro. You took so many people's lives.
Yeah,
it's too late for you. Sorry, it's just like maybe on a philosophical level, I'm like your soul could maybe be redeemed or some shit.
Yeah.
But like should you be out in the world? No, I think that's the way we all feel about like a Hitler and that whole genre of person.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also have people where it's like, how much do you look at someone who came from a bad environment and committed crime when they were young? And killed someone, right? And killed someone when they were 18, 17, 16, but then reformed in prison, and now they're out doing real good in the world.
Yeah.
And like we support them, and we're like, it's just hard.
I think it all comes down to the victim too, because there are those weird scenarios where like, you'll see those court cases where it's like mother forgives man who killed daughter in courtroom, and like they'll hug it out, or like you'll see something where it's like, like I visit the murderer of like my daughter or my son or something like that in prison, and now we're like friends and shit. Like there are those weird cases. I've seen them on the internet, but like to go back to the whole entire, because Trey, we've been in a situation before with somebody where they've wronged us, and now I think you might know what I'm talking about. They've wronged us plenty of times to the point where we were very upset and burned us. And, you can give them the benefit of the doubt as many times as they can. And that person is doing better and is like, yeah, I'm so sorry, this and that. But then like you look back and you're like, yeah, but I don't know if those apologies are really going to like tame the burn that is now scarred on my skin. That's not going to take away my scar. You know what I mean? So like, it's up to the victim to really be like, am I ready to forgive you? And even if I do forgive you, do I still want to fuck with you? Like
those are two very different things.
Totally different things.
Like for yourself as a person, holding on to resentment and bitterness, even to people who have really wronged you, only hurts you and poisons you. But just because, like, I can forget, there are people who, like, I've had issues with who, like, they've wronged me in ways where I would never want them as a part of my life again.
Totally.
But I've emotionally forgiven them because I also am like, I've fucked up and hurt people, and I've been wrong, and I've been the asshole in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So like, so I can be like, I forgive you, and I understand we're both just flawed human beings, and you're making the same mistakes I am in the world, but like,
only got a
life
few.
is short.
Yeah, exactly.
I
was only got so many years around here.
I only want to be around people who I like being around,
because it'll bring up pain, and that's like the issue with it. Like, even though like you forgive somebody, like, will it not like bring up pain or suffering or anything like that?
I mean, and most of the time with those people, it's like, I've already watched that episode again.
Yeah,
I can't be sitting here watching reruns while my life just ticks away and I'm trying to do shit.
Yeah, because it's like you've grown beyond that.
Well, and going back to the main character syndrome thing too, it's like we also have to, I think, be aware that we're all playing different roles in different people's lives. You know what I mean? Like there are relationships that I was in where like I'll use my own real life relationships as an example. I had certain issues that I wasn't able to get over, even though I knew better and I knew I should be better and I should get over it. But I just wasn't able to until I lost that relationship in my mind as a result of those negative things. But through that loss, I learned the lesson and said never again, and changed and became a better person.
Yep.
And now I'm much better to my current partner because of those things that I learned through loss and through fucking up a relationship.
Yeah.
And we're all of those different roles to different people all the time. And it's hard to remember, like, you know what? I don't know what my role in everybody's life is. And it's like, I'm not God. It's not my place to try and figure out what my role is. I'm just going to do the best I can and make the best judgment calls I can for myself. Like, it's like who you want to spend your time with. I think there's no right or wrong. It's just tough.
One of the things that you said earlier too, when you were like, you mentioned that you've been judgmental and like sometimes it's hard to be judgy or not to be judgy. And I think what came into my head is there are definitely times where I'm judgy, but then like you always got to step back. Like, let me put myself in their shoes. But it's the people that I've known the longest who I've given the most attention to, and that I've given them answers and they still haven't changed is when I get judgy. And I'm like, all right, fuck that. Like, you're totally lost. There's nothing I can really do anymore.
See, that's the thing. That's what's really hard for me because I feel the same way. But my lived experience of me as a human being is I was a fuck for a very long time. And a lot of people, right. But there are so many people who should have, by all measures, given up on me and said, fuck you.
Oh, me too.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
And they gave me chances I didn't deserve, and they kept showing up even when they probably shouldn't have, and that made the difference for me.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to be more like that person when I can be.
Even character development.
Right. Like I don't know. It's hard. Like there are times where I'm like, nope, fuck that person. They've just bridges burned. It's been too many times.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, man, what if so and so did that to me when I was at my worst? And they gave up, then I would have become more cynical and more jaded and gone further down that negative path. But they didn't, and they showed me another way. And it's like...
But there have been people who have cut you off probably, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
But did you learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You learn from everything. If you're either a person who's learning or you're a person who's staying stagnant. So you're either going to learn from everything or you're not. But it's like that kind of thing. It's like what I just said could be valuable and very harmful to two different people or the same person at different times in different circumstances. For someone, it might be like, yo, you know what? Maybe I really shouldn't give up yet. Maybe I really do need to stick around in this situation, and I need to get over myself and my emotions and detach from my feelings. For another person who maybe is in like a more abusive relationship or a cyclical thing, it's like they need to draw the line. And what I just said of like, well, you don't want to give up because maybe they'll change is exactly the belief that keeps them trapped in an abusive relationship. And so it's just, there's no right or wrong. It's like different things apply at different times. Every rule has its reversal.
And it's hard not to just like victim blame too, in a sense, in those situations too. Because it's like, you can always like, oh, so-and-so is doing X, Y, and Z wrong and stuff. But then to like take that step back for yourself and what you could be adding to that issue as well. So if you are like, fuck that dude, like yada, yada, like you could be the results of that problem as well.
Yeah.
Or adding to that fire.
Right? Yeah, but there is still that fine line sometimes that you have to draw in the sand, like exactly like Nadim's saying, where it's like you keep crossing it, like I can't keep you in my life because this is just toxic for me at this point.
Right. Yeah, I have a lot of people like that. Where it's like, you know. But I have other people where I thought I had that.
Yeah.
And then one or both of us were like, let's be the bigger people here. And now...
Like you and Trey. Because you guys were flicking matches at each other.
Yeah, well, that was before we were old enough to care or know anything. Yeah. But no, I mean, like I've had friends where like I guess at the end of the day, if I can avoid it, the one thing I hate more than anything is being uncomfortable around someone.
Oh yeah, dude, that sucks.
I hate the feeling of like, oh, they're gonna be there. I don't think I'm gonna go. I hate that. Like that fucks me up to my core as a human being. Like I don't ever. So wherever I can remedy things, I will, because I would rather. It doesn't mean I'm gonna have some delusional. We're best buds. Yeah. But I'm not. I don't want that fear of seeing someone. I don't want that. Oh, I can't.
And we're from the same town still. Like we still live in the town we grew up in. So that's a thing.
It's especially hard when you live in a small town in a small world where everyone knows everyone. But it's like, so yeah, do I have like I have people who I'm like, fuck them. They crossed my line and I crossed their line. And we were like, fuck you. We're enemies now. Right. But then 6 months later, one of us drunk texts the other and is like, hey, I love you, man. I really miss you.
6
months.
Doing right.
Or a year or 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, depends on the situation, but just as an example. Or you just like, you get to thinking about it and you're like, hey, man, maybe I was wrong. Or you just don't even go, I just love you. I hope everything's okay. I don't really want to see you much, but I love you.
Yeah.
And now when I talk to that person, it brings me joy. And it brings them joy, and we're happy to talk and be connected. And it's like, I would just rather have that. It's very rare that even if someone wronged me in real ways, it's very rare that I can look at a person and be like, it just deserves to be fuck you for life. Yeah. Even if it's justified. Like, I just heard this...
Takes a goddamn big person to do that. Good for you, man.
It's hard. I mean, hey, I fail at a lot of
stuff,
too.
but I also I do that a lot with a lot of people. But I draw the line where it's like, hey, dude, I do love you, and I'm sorry that this is the way that it happened. But like, I am not like, dude, we're not like boys. Like, we're boys. But it's that person's not.
But so I just saw a little clip of an interview with Mike Tyson, where the dude who was interviewing him or he was talking to was like, yeah, I like had to cut these people off, and Mike Tyson was like, nah, the devil wins. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, I the devil wins because I set boundaries for myself? And he's like, no, because you let them change you. You let them change who you are and and how you feel. And so they win. The devil wins because now you're resentful. Now you're hateful. Now you're carrying that
Was this the one that we were watching?
No, I was going to say, I've also seen I was also listening to a podcast recently where Mike Tyson just ate a fistful of shrooms and chewed on
4 grams of shrooms and sucked on them for 30 minutes.
Yeah, chewed on them for 30 minutes without any water, saying he's sucking all the energy out of them.
Bro,
like,
that's
shit.
Mike Tyson is wild, but that man has some good things to say sometimes.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think those were different interviews.
Dude, he literally was sucking on these mushrooms, and he was like,
I've seen that clip.
Yeah,
he's like, are you sure you don't need a drink of water?
I thought for 30 minutes of this interview, because Trey made me listen to it, we were driving to a gig.
Point.
Yeah, he was like, he had this fucked up rasp, and I was like, man, Mike Tyson's voice is messed up now. Like, he's getting old.
It's the mushroom.
No, he's getting old. And then he's literally talking like this, like 30 minutes into it, he takes a sip of water, and he's like, okay, hello. And I was like, oh my God, it was. His mouth was really that full.
Oh, that is so funny.
But yeah, I don't know. Life is crazy. Yeah, it's really hard to navigate sometimes.
I'm going to 10-1 real quick, and we can wrap this guy up here.
Yeah, I got a 10-1 too.
I'm on the cast, bro.
What it does is it puts you into a conversation. Like, it really makes you into the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it removes all room noise.
Yeah.
And,
We're talking about wearing headphones and actually being in a podcast. Because it forces people to make eye contact. It forces you to know when you're talking over somebody because they're literally in your ear, and it like really slows things down.
Yeah. Speaking of headphones, I want to divert here. This is the second Apple product I'm plugging on this podcast.
Oh, dude, we talked about it. I've been plugging Trey on it.
Bro, AirPod Pros.
I haven't got. I've just lost my. I have 2 pairs of AirPods, and I just lost one of them, so I need to get an AirPod Pro.
It is time to change your life and join the future.
They are expensive.
It's but some things are worth paying the money to be in the future.
It's a life-changing thing.
Go walk around in noise cancellation mode with those bitches on, without listening to anything.
I've put his on with the noise canceling. It's pretty nice.
You can go stand on my balcony and Washtenaw is super loud, and then you.
It's amazing, dude.
It just makes everything go away.
Even Elle was like, yo, this is crazy noise cancellation.
When me and Trey were they're good. When me and Trey were camping, we're not camping, we were at my buddy's cabin. You have 5 dudes in one cabin. Some people are staying up watching movies and being annoying and shit. It's like,
some people have sleep apnea. Like,
I just put in my AirPod Pros and I was like, the batteries last through the night too, so like they'll sound cancel all night long. Baby.
Yeah, see, my regular AirPods, they're like do like 30 minutes into working.
Those Pros have the battery life because I be going for like 4 to 6 hour walks and like
what 4 to 6 hour walks.
I walk all night. Why do you think my next song is called
All Night
Walk?
Yeah, literally. Wow. No, like this is not. It's real. I really live it.
I really live
walk my raps.
This is real. I'm really there. Y'all really think you're there? I'm there.
No.
All these rappers rapping about their fake watches and shit.
I'll tell you off camera where I walk because it's super cool. But like, that's when. First of all, that's when I have a lot of time to listen to books.
Yeah.
And also I write lyrics on walks, and it's just good for. I literally found the last 2 months has been cold as shit.
Yeah.
And so I stopped going for walks. Like from when Natalie and I moved into the new place we're in, I started walking every night, minimum 2 hours.
Because you're downtown.
No, not. I'll tell you where, but I don't put that out. But
he doesn't want anyone running up on him in his night walk.
That's right. But no. Like, I started going for walks like 2 to 5 hours, literally. Crazy. And like,
how do you have the time to do that, dude?
I'm because
I know you're already super busy.
I'm on a nocturnal sleep schedule, and this is the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
I like that is not an exaggeration. Without it, I do not feel like a balanced human being who can manage
walking
my emotions. Yeah. And again, if you,
it's great exercise too. I mean,
it's exercise, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's literally the whole deal. Like, and again, I study a lot of like what makes successful people successful throughout history, not just now, but over the last thousands of years. Almost all creatives, almost all brilliant innovators, almost all of them went for long walks. That was a regular philosopher.
You have that blackout state. That's what I call it.
Yeah. And so I don't know.
Your mind's at its most peaceful. That's me when my shirt is off and I'm bombing, and I'm bombing a hill on my mountain bike. Like there's this thing where like the whole world around me just stops when I'm on my bicycle, and like I'm just like going.
You're in that zone,
and I can feel like my shirt might be unbuttoned or something, and it's fluttering in the wind, and it's like those deep breaths that I take. It's just like that's
life.
The most peaceful place to be.
Dude, that's hilarious.
It's funny.
I've never seen.
It's true.
John has never finished a single Zoom meeting without his shirt coming off by the end of it. That is your happy place.
I start with the shirt on, and then I'm like, oh God, it's so constricting.
See, your need is freedom too.
Yeah, it's true.
But no, like I basically for the last couple months of like being locked in the crib and not going for walks, then just it's been warm and nice. The last like week I've been back on my walks, and I was like, wow, that's why I was anxious. That's why I was stressed. That's why I was unhappy, because I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to just be and feel as a person. And it's like, man,
do you do these walks like alone, like, or do you go with Natalie at all, or is it kind of more a thing where you're just like alone, silent?
So me and my dog.
Yeah, boss. Yeah,
me and my dog. But also, I mean, Natalie and I, that's like one of the things that her and I do is go for walks too. That it's like we can both, because we're both super busy. I mean, she's got a full-time job plus master's program, and I've got 5 jobs, so we're just constantly
you guys
busy.
are both always on.
Right. And so going for a walk is like the perfect way to like reconnect and not be distracted. It's not like watching a show, which is also really good, but it's like you're directly interacting with the human, but you're breathing fresh air and you're in nature, and we can talk about life and where we're at and what our plans are, because we're so busy just trying to keep up with what's happening today that it's like if you don't make that space, it's like time goes by. Years go by. But to answer your question, really, I value both of it. But to me, my most important time as a human being is me going for walks by myself. That is when I grow. That is when I develop. That's when I process emotionally. That's when I think. That's when I write. That's when I listen and learn. It's like I think back on my life, and I've had a lot of really awesome moments and a lot of really beautiful memories and experiences and crazy stories and a bunch of shit. The happiest I've ever been is when I'm by myself on a long walk. I just feel the most connected to the universe, to being a human being. And
that's me on a bike.
Exactly. It's that.
I need that shit.
Yeah. But it's like...
I experienced a lot of that when I went up to Northern University. Up in Marquette for a whole year and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I went up there not knowing a single person. So like I was by myself a lot, and like in the woods, like no man's land, like by yourself and stuff. You do a lot of self-finding there.
That probably did a lot for you as a human being, right?
100. Like that's the one thing, like for anyone like who's either still in the hometown or like about to graduate high school or whatever, like just going out and like immersing yourself in an environment that like you're not familiar with at all, you don't have any other friends with, and like you can solely just focus on yourself.
Well, it forces you.
You're influenced so much by the people around you to where like taking that step back, if I didn't go out there, like I would have been fucked as a kid, like as a person,
Dude, that's so important. And actually that brings up like something I was thinking about earlier today, about like how influenced we are by the people around us. Like you just said, it's like if you're in your home, like there's like that idea that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I think about it is like who you spend your time with is not just who you physically spend your time with. This is like the full circle moment of this podcast for me. This is when all of it comes back together. For someone like I'm not trying to, I relate as a human being to everyone I encounter, but in terms of my goals and ambitions and what I'm after in life, I can't really talk to almost anyone I know about it, because no one I know has done the things I'm trying to do, right? And it's not an ego thing. This is an aspirational thing. This is what I want to become.
Yeah.
So we live in the greatest age of all time to be connected to and influenced by the greatest minds of all time. So if I can't hang out with Jay Prince or Jay-Z or Steve Jobs or, whoever the fuck the person is,
you could access
James
them.
Baldwin. I can listen to them. I can hear their thoughts, and I'm in their company. The 5 people I'm more influenced by are the interviews I listen to. That's the other thing I listen to aside from books, is interviews and books. I'm more influenced by that than I am by most of the people in my daily life. Now, real in-person mentors are crucial too. But like, I just know a lot of people, we all have excuses. And it's like, yeah, maybe all your homies are just like you said, same episode.
Whack.
Mm-hmm. Let's meet up. Let's smoke a bowl. Let's like sit around on the couch. Let's play a game. And then, all right, good to see you, bro. Let's talk.
You're in your comfortable zone.
Right. And if you don't have
being pushed.
Right. And if you don't have anyone immediately around you to push you out of that, it's easy to use that as an excuse to stay there. But it's like, not if you got YouTube, dog. If you have YouTube, you can learn from the greatest minds in all of human history for free.
It's really about what you
that's
choose.
only been a thing for the past like 15 years, really. I mean,
right.
20 maybe if you're really counting. But
I would say like 10 to 12, depending on if we're actually like in the place where it's been
used, like actual vile information on YouTube and stuff like that.
I can't be cynical because of that. This is the greatest time to be a human being.
And stuff. Like it's like so established now that everybody knows it. It's not like when we were in 2008 and somebody's like, you don't know about this YouTuber? It's like, what's a YouTuber, dog?
Dude, like imagine like if I wanted to learn about someone, I had to go physically to a library, look for a book, hope they had a book, hope that it was good, spend the hours reading it. I can go on YouTube, put this playback speed at 1.5 or 2, absorb, it all goes in, think about it. It's like, that's amazing.
Do you think the world is getting smarter? Like if you can measure smartness on a scale,
what do you
because you have so much of this information readily available to you and you're consuming so much more information than what you have been like 20 years ago or whatever, like are people's information and intelligence skyrocketing or plummeting?
I have an answer to this.
I have
one.
two sides to that. One being, well, they might there might be a just slightly long-winded. One being, this is a saying, the era that we're in right now is where everybody thinks they know the most, they are the loudest, and they are the least informed, which is where, are we the least informed, or how much research have you done on it? And that's a dangerous thing because everybody's like as loud as they possibly can.
It's a dick measuring contest.
Yeah, and just yelling at each other, kind of like what Nadim was talking about like political stuff or this or that, which social media just amplifies. But then there's also like the ability to, or where it comes down to, it really depends on what you put your attention to. But then the other thought that I have is when it comes to certain trades, we are kind of like fucked almost. And this is a thought that I've had for a while, and it goes back to the Chinese TikTok versus American TikTok. Before we had social media and a lot of stuff to distract us all the time, you would have to do something. Like you would have to have a hobby, or you would play a sport, or you would work or do something. Nowadays, there are so many people that scrolling is all that they do. And I remember certain roommates or certain people, like they'd be like, it's my day off. Like I'm not doing shit today. And I'd like go ride my bike and I'd come back like 4 hours later and they're still on their phone scrolling. And you're like, wow, so that's 4 hours down the tube for you. What did you do? Where like back in the day, there are people that are like, oh, this is a transmission broken on this car. Let's pull it apart. Like my father taught me how to do that. Or like, yo, there's this that's broken, or like there's this or that. Let me take it apart and tinker with it. Like so many people back in the day used to pull apart like ham radios or pinball machines or just do stuff because they're fucking bored. Right. But they learned from it, and now they have these life skills, or like they understand it from an engineering aspect, like how things work. And that's just an example of like pulling apart an object. But what I'm saying is like you used to do shit. Nowadays, people don't do shit, and they get jobs that like are in the tech industry that figure out how to utilize people's time to put them to do less shit. And then like we wonder why the economy's going to shit, because like what's everybody doing?
So
not saying no one's working, but you know what I mean.
Well, when I guess the word smart, and like if the world is getting smarter, I guess that's a really loaded topic or vague topic, if you will, obviously. because no, I totally agree with you with like the whole trades and everything going like to the shit. Like there's people aren't going to school to become mechanics and stuff.
If the internet goes down and we can't get on YouTube to learn how to do something, how many generations can that go on for us to be like, all that knowledge is gone, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because no one's really going to school right now to become a mechanic to go wrench on cars. Everyone's like, oh no, I want to go sit in an office and work at Google. You know, that's the goal.
Or they don't go to school to be a mechanic to learn on cars because they just go on YouTube to do it. Mm-hmm. What happens if that knowledge goes away?
I mean, but that's okay. So I don't know. I feel conflicted because on one hand, I think you're right that it's like very dangerous.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying no one does anything.
It can be very dangerous, but I think it's also important to remember like the internet and this whole world is so new that like we're like babies learning with a new toy. We're learning how to use it. We haven't learned how to use it healthily yet. Yeah. I think in the long run, it's for the benefit. But like what you said about like, well, what if all this information goes away? All of our mathematics is based on like what 2 books that survived libraries being burned in Baghdad.
I didn't know
1,000 years ago. Yeah, it's like so much. Like that's just the like. I get again when you put it in if you zoom out, look at the macro picture of human existence. Mm-hmm. That's still like, I don't know. It's just I'm very much pro evolution and future and technology, and it's like,
I think the internet and everything of that readily accessible information is like 0.001 of humanity.
Right. It's like if you want to use it. If you want it to be beneficial and you have discipline, like again, I'm on the internet a lot, but I balance that with long nature walks and reconnecting with being a human being and social real interactions. I'm not lost on the internet, or I try. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll waste hours scrolling. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I've learned more from Netflix documentaries and scrolling on Facebook than I ever learned in school. Yeah. To be completely fucking honest with you. And I've retained more. Right. And like, you know, Natalie and I were just talking about the other day, like, it's so cool seeing like, you know, just like, you get like insight into like a random person's job, like a fast food worker showing how they make the burgers at McDonald's, or like someone who's like a construction worker showing how they do a certain thing. It's like, it's just interesting. I would never in my life 20 years ago, if I was my age now, I would never have known what someone in any other perspective does. So it's like, I just think there's so much potential for good that I do think we're getting smarter. I think we're also, like you're saying, getting more cocky and more arrogant and maybe like, you know.
Main character.
Yeah, but and also like, you know, but we're also like, I didn't know what main character syndrome was when I was a kid. I learned about that on the internet. You know what I mean?
I learned about it from Reddit when I saw that subreddit, and I was like, fuck, I've done that before. And there's a whole subreddit to make fun of people who do it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know how like so many ideas spread, and we get so much more access. So it's like, I think we are getting smarter. But there are also people who just like drown in video games and scrolling endlessly and like just get really anxious and depressed and don't know how to deal with it, so they drown deeper.
Moderation is so important.
Yeah, well, and it's just like we're learning how to do it. No one does it right. Sometimes I have days where I use the internet really well and I learn a bunch of shit. And like I said, I've basically tamed my feeds to feed me things to remind me to take care of myself mentally and emotionally, and to succeed and to be happy and to work on my toxic traits and try to be a better person. And that's great. And other days I like scroll and get in the political rabbit hole of just like looking at the same fucking videos geared to get me pissed off, and then I look at like prank videos for 6 hours and I'm like, what is my existence? So it's like, it's all
what is
true.
My existence? Where does the internet lead? What are they telling me?
But I think it's all for the good. I think it's for the greater good for sure. 1,000%.
There's like this last topic I want to bring up because I think we're getting pretty close to the end here, but like,
is this the longest podcast you guys have done yet?
I don't know.
We hit 2 hours last week, I think.
Yeah,
we better go past her. I want the longest.
Well, the thing is like, you know, we want to bring everybody back. That's the idea. So we can just do it again.
No, let me get the record and then I'll. Bro, I could be here for 8 hours. You don't understand.
That's the fun part about podcasting. You don't want it to end. But so
y'all do. You got life to do.
I'm good. I know Trey's tired.
It's Sunday night. Yeah, we're chilling.
So it goes back. So Lex Friedman, this interview with Mark Zuckerberg that I was talking about, they were talking about the metaverse, and they were talking about the differences between like a photorealistic avatar versus like a wee mini avatar or whatever. Like there's like if I'm a dragon, like obviously I'm a dragon, but like if I'm going to they're like, but if I'm going to work, like I want a photorealistic like professional me, you know what I mean? And they were talking about like
I forgot to turn my dragon off on the way to work today, dude. Sorry.
I gotta loop back around.
Hey, like,
That's so
hey, Trey,
funny.
I think you're still a dragon, and Trey's just in the office in the metaverse, like, fuck.
God
Like,
damn it,
I'm
I
still
forgot
a
to
dragon.
switch.
Like that lawyer who showed up to court is a cat with the cat filter on.
Yeah, dude, they thought he was. Yeah, he's like couldn't turn it off. Exactly. But then they started getting into this whole entire other thing where it was like, this kind of falls under the NFT stuff. So Trey's into NFTs, and he's like, the more that I've gotten closer to it, the more that I'm starting to realize, like, it's the beginning of the layered internet FOMO. So like we have life FOMO right now, but the FOMO of the metaverse and the internet. What are you gonna wear in the metaverse? You gotta buy clothes, you know? So like,
Right.
But like the closest thing to NFTs and like what that metaverse thing and like that want kind of is comparable to, I guess, in the like most basic terms, is like Fortnite skins, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You're buying
What do you
buying
want?
Fortnite skins in V-Bucks is like
Right,
the
right.
Fortnite currency, and these skins or these outfits and clothes, they don't help you in the game at all. It's just so you can flaunt it off and have a dope
and
outfit.
this is what
you
Mark
know, but you're
Zuckerberg was
spending
talking
real
about.
money on it, and
He
that's a
said-
huge thing for humanity, where it's like it's starting to become this want and this FOMO, like you're saying.
And what
which is
happened
so
was
weird
he was
and
like,
subconscious,
dude, it's so weird, and it gets me back to a couple different small things. So it's like, what are you gonna wear? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck what I'm gonna wear in the metaverse. And then Mark Zuckerberg was like, wouldn't you want to like look good? Like, you spend money on clothes in the real world, why wouldn't you spend money on clothes in the metaverse? And then Lex Friedman said something along the lines of like, well, that's money, like whatever, nobody wants to spend it. And he's like, okay. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, but like you're in a business meeting with other professionals, or you're like with your friends or this or that, and you're dressed like a bum, and everybody just kind of looks at you like, oh, you didn't buy the suit that we needed for the meeting. We're talking like way off in the metaverse, and like this is a real thing that they're actively trying to like steer the world to. So it just
people I know
creates
are already
another
having meetings, like business meetings in their companies in the metaverse.
Yeah,
like
so
in
it's just like-
Sandbox and stuff.
So then they're just like, he was just talking about, you know, like, oh, it's going to create so many, the economy, Mark, thanks. Oh, it's going to create so many jobs, digital marketing, clothing marketing, this and that. Anything that you can market in the real world is going to be marketed in the metaverse, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, wait, so now I got to buy shit for 2 lives? I can barely afford one.
What that's gonna do is just open an outlet for all the huge already established
Adidas.
companies
New
to
Adidas
just
metaverse
transfer
collection.
over. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
and you're
that's-
gonna have Gap, you're gonna have Adidas, Nike, all those big ones, to where I mean,
Right.
yes,
That's
you'll
a
probably have
challenge.
those like boutique, like
But what it does,
designer like
it's
one
just,
of one stuff, but like that's what it's gonna be.
to me, I see it as another opportunity for the outside world to make me feel bad about myself.
That's real. I mean, I think, yeah, that's tough because it's like,
It's so weird.
I think it's still hard for us to wrap our heads around what a digital world means, because it's not valuable enough yet.
Yeah.
To the average person,
Yeah.
right? There are some people who are looking further ahead, like you're talking about, and seeing this, and maybe not that much further ahead, but it's like,
The way that I was listening to it today, man, it was kind of scaring the shit out of me.
yeah, I mean, no,
Dude,
that's
think of a metaverse restaurant. You walk into a McDonald's in the metaverse, look at the menu, look at this elaborate McDonald's that's nicer than you've ever been in, and you order your food, and then in the real world, you have a Uber Eats knocking at your door with your meal.
That's exactly how they're going to do it. And
It's
I
fucking
read
nuts.
an article
Yeah,
about
that's
that
wild.
the other day on McDonald's. I was reading the article and I was like, metaverse McDonald's, what are they going to do? Deliver it? And then like,
It's like
2
the-
paragraphs later, it was like, and then it's going to be delivered. And I was like, no,
Right.
they are doing it.
that's crazy. I mean, here's the thing. It's hard for me, I think, to wrap my head around some of it, because it's just like, you know, if you had told me like, oh, you could do all your meetings over Zoom, I would have been like, who would want to stop going to the real world meetings? But it's like, now I'm like, you got to really, you got to make it valuable if you want me to get off my ass and go to a meeting.
Yep.
Like,
But like the same thing with the
did-
restaurants, it's the same thing with the clothing stores
But
or
that's-
any other accessory.
So
You know, you're gonna be able to buy it in the metaverse. You'll have
Right.
to wear it in the metaverse, and you'll probably get a shipment in the mail of your little T-shirt.
You buy your Nike in real
This
life,
is-
it comes with a QR code to scan it for
Exactly.
your metaverse.
sure. I mean, this
avatar.
is actually something Nipsey Hussle was on before he was taken, in his Smart store in Crenshaw. So there's he was basically, you buy the T-shirt, you scan the T-shirt and you get the album.
Oh yeah.
So there's actually the world of NFT ticketing is going to be really cool because
Super Bowl already did.
Everyone
in the Super Bowl got an NFT with their purchase.
Yeah, Mercedes
ticket.
doing that with their cars too.
It's happened. Okay,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. Everyone got like this.
See, that's the thing.
Like memorabilia of the Super Bowl.
So here's what's so cool about that. This is the first time the NFTs clicked for me and went, oh, that's actually valuable. Is that human beings like?
I still don't think they're valuable. But
Listen,
I see that they're worth money.
It's clout chasing.
Yeah,
right. So
totally.
human beings, whether it's your great grandma's porcelain dish collection,
or your Jordans,
or baseball cards, or whatever. Humans like to collect things, and the current market for ticket stubs is like billions of dollars.
Oh,
it's like trillions of dollars
I
in the
see
last
what
15
you're
years.
saying. Like,
so imagine if you had a ticket stub that
Kiss,
stayed
1979.
right. That stayed. I was at Dave Matthews' first concert at da-da-da. I was at this. You can say that, but imagine if you had digital proof that never lost value and stayed pristine, and it's in a public wallet where you get to show it off. Like, that's cool. You're right that it is. A lot of it is preying on our worst,
our wants and needs,
our worst instincts to
quote,
just
unquote.
like feel important and look cool and be desired by others. But that's human nature. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not against it, but I'm also like, I don't know. I've never been someone who care. I got my first pair of Nikes like last year, and they're like gym sneakers. Most of my shoes are like fucking $30 Amazon shoes. You know what I'm saying? I've never been one who gets that in the same way. But
there's a lot of money on the floor with NFTs right now,
sure.
for sure. That's
It's speaking of that, we still have to help you before you go.
yeah.
The thing is like I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a materialistic person, but so many people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about, John? Like, you're definitely very materialistic. But for me, it's like shit, like my rings or things like that. You know what I mean? Where it's like certain things mean a lot to me because of different moments in my life or like where I am or like, I always relate it to like those tokens in Inception, the movie, where it's like you keep your token on you to make sure you're grounded. Like that's kind of like where I am with some of my material goods. But then there is like that danger where it's like I don't need the iPhone 13, but I bought it. You know what I mean? Like all my stuff that is material goods is expensive shit, like my camera. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
I just upgraded all my gear.
Where do you draw the line?
So no, I mean
investments versus just.
Well, but it's hard. Some things are investments in your future, and other times it's like the best is when
impulse
it's both.
buying,
or just things that like you just want some nice shit. But this is like we're growing up living in like our parents, and our grandparents have all grown up in like the U.S. is like the world's superpower. We are so privileged and comfortable. We don't even know what the real world's like. We're already living in a metaverse of sorts. I'm just,
dude, that's a really good point. I never thought of that. Like we're basically in an alternate reality compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's like what's the statistic? It's like if you make $35,000 a year or more, you are in the top 1% of the planet.
Jeez.
99. Think about that.
Jeez.
Think about it. So like that's why it's like we've already won the lottery, and it is really fucked up. Like what you were saying, how like all these corporations and stuff like prey on our fears and insecurities to get us to care more, as if we're never good enough. We haven't gotten there. It's like I don't give a fuck what clothes I wear in the metaverse if I get to know what the fucking metaverse is and see it with my own eyes. Mm-hmm. There are people without running water and toilets right now.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like, it's all cool. And I'm again, like, I'm a big believer in the future, so I can't wait to see where it goes and what it translates to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think part of it will be like, maybe there will be some real value and there will be a lot of money grabs. But also like for me as a person, like you can't simulate going out for a walk in nature to the point where I'm going to choose that.
I don't know, man.
No, I'm not. Look,
I don't know.
Far from that, but I don't.
Close,
dude. I'm not saying that we're not going to get to that point, but I'm saying for me as a person, like I don't know how interested I am. I'd rather go on a camping trip than be like and also
go on a metaverse excursion for 2 weeks.
Right. Exactly. And if you like, I played World of Warcraft when I was a kid, bro. Yeah. I played World of Warcraft. I know what that feels like. I'm not, and that's an old man thing to say. I get it, but I'm also, it's like, I think that if you actually look at there's like the potential and there's the real world thing, and it's like no one is living in fucking Oculus. No one like these. It's like people are buying into, and it's not developed where it's going to be.
There's a danger and I can
VR porn.
That's terrible.
Be the cameraman.
Well, I mean, we've already figured out how porn is like so bad for humans in general.
It can be very toxic, yeah.
But it can be very toxic. Yes. So no, Ghost of Tsushima is this game I played for the PS5.
Okay.
Just got my PS5 first video game. Got
Congrats
like a nice 4K. Yeah, I got like a really nice 4K TV and shit, and I'm like playing it. And there's this moment where like the game is based on beauty, and like there were times where I was like, wow, this is like an incredibly beautiful immersive environment. There's these things that you do in that game that are way different than other video games that make you slow down. Like there are meditation processes in the video game. Like they make you reflect on certain things. Like you have to write haikus, you do a bunch of shit where it's like really slow down and make you appreciate what these developers have done in this game.
That's cool.
And yeah, at first I was kind of like, this is kind of weird. And some of my other friends are like, oh, I skip all that shit, that's lame. And then but for me, I was like, wow, this is like really nice. Like they did it. I'm gonna get into it. There's these things called cat sanctuaries where you play your flute for these cats, and like you do it all around the map.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but like
Legends of Zelda type shit.
Yeah, like you're sitting on the ground on your knees, like playing this flute, and like these cats are running around you. And this is like, you know, new age video game, so it's really high resolution. It looks really good, the graphics. But the PS5 has the haptic controllers, so like they vibrate and they move in a certain way that stimulates your hands in a certain way. And
like a crazier technology. If you haven't put a PS5 controller in your hand after this podcast, he'll give you
I'll show you some shit.
I need the demo.
But it's super
insane.
weird because like a lot of people who play PS5, they're probably used to it by now, so they hear us talking about it and they're like, yeah, I mean, like,
Fucking rookies.
It's pretty dope.
Humans get used to anything.
But when I first did it, I was like, this is the craziest experience I've ever had with a controller in my hand. And there was a moment where like in that video game, like they get you so attached to the character and the beauty around you is so much. This cat, like when you develop a relationship with them, walks up to me and sits on my lap and it's purring. And like there's ways where like it comes through the TV and it also comes through your controller. So like things were weird. And there was a moment in my head where I was like, there was that little oxytocin drop where it's like, which is the chemical that you feel when you're like close to something. And I literally was like, what the hell? Like they just tricked my body like mentally into thinking that like there was a moment for a second where my brain felt the same satisfaction just for a small second, or maybe not the same satisfaction, but it was opened. Like the box was opened of me being with that cat, and I had the chemical reaction of like,
so look, I'm not,
and I was like, holy shit, like if they dial this in,
which they will,
they're going to, it's going to be like, what can we do with these people?
I mean, no, that's amazing. And I'm not saying that like that isn't fucking super cool, and that it's not that like they aren't going to be able to do that. I'm just saying that like, I don't know, I have to compare it to something that I don't want to talk about online.
Have to.
But basically like, you could feel the most extreme pleasure and whatever. And maybe this is where it goes to like simulation theory of like, are we already just living in a simulation? Like that whole way of thinking that it's already so perfected and now we're creating a simulation within a simulation. That's a cool thought experiment. But it's like, if it's not literally that, I just have a belief for myself as a human being that like, even if it's like, oh my God, I've never experienced any sensations. Like, actually, you know what? I'll use the AirPod Pros as an example.
Yeah.
When I have the noise cancellation on and I'm listening to really well mixed music, like really good music,
with the spatial audio and shit,
that is the most incredible, insane, overstimulating, like endorphin, like brain and body are going crazy. Yeah, that's incredible. And at a certain point, I want to take them off, and I'm so relieved when I take them off. That's what I'm saying. It's like no matter how good they make that experience, it's not about it being seamless. It's about like, we are living animals. And going back to like the anxiety and depression thing, it's like, you know, one theory is that, 1 in 4 kids are born with an anxiety disorder. 1 in 3 kids are born depressed. It's like, or maybe we're animals that are like we're mammals that are supposed to be outside and interacting and moving and walking, and now we live in boxes and cubicles and we don't move. Maybe the environment is why we're depressed and anxious.
Yep.
And so it's like, I just think at a certain level, like you can simulate all this stuff and that's amazing, and it's going to be really cool, and I'm really excited for the future. I want to live as long as possible and experience all of it. But at the end of the day, we are animals. We are human beings, and we're like, there's going to be a point where we want to clock out. and just like I really love how my voice sounds and your voice sounds and his voice sounds in these headphones, and I love that I don't hear all the other noise in the world, and it's gonna feel so good to take these off and breathe fresh air.
You're gonna when we take them off, you're gonna realize that we were talking very quietly this whole time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I probably have never talked this quietly in my life. Oh my God, this is quieter than I've ever. I'm such a loud
He just took the headphones off. But when you take them off, it realizes like you tone your voice down a lot because you're in so many people's ears.
Natalie would be so happy if I just had headphones on all the time like this. I would just be so much more chill.
Real quick, back to that the PS5 haptic stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like just with how close it's getting to reality, like I feel like the ratings and the restrictions on these games need to start getting really strict, you know?
Be careful, Trey. That's very liberal thinking of you.
I mean, I'm just saying, because when I picked up this controller and I went to go fire that gun in the game that you had, like, it felt the closest I've felt to, besides picking up a real gun and shooting it. Like, it feels insane. Like it's getting close.
And
you know, I mean, it's still a controller.
And get desensitized to it.
Exactly. All it's doing is just desensitizing you to everything. I mean, straight to like the fucking Grand Theft Auto is bad for kids. Like, I mean, that's all it is desensitizing you to.
They've done a bunch of studies, and that's totally debunked.
Well, it's like it's not ours. So here's the thing.
Well, not saying desensitized, but if you play Grand Theft Auto, you're not going to be a murderer.
No, yeah, but nothing is that. Yeah, nothing's that direct. If A, then B. We're not talking about a direct correlation, but it's like on one. It's also, again, going back to what we said earlier, it's different for different people.
Yeah,
there's some kid who like maybe it's a really good way for them to get their anger and aggression out through a video game, and it's just a relief, and they never do it. To another kid, they just get used to seeing simulations of people dying all day long, and it stops feeling real in the same way. So it's like, it's not one or the other. It's definitely,
that's like an extreme case of mental illness is what you're talking about.
But that's like, I think that's what happens to human beings. Like, I don't know. This is a whole other conversation, but I feel like all, or not all, I can't say this. I don't know shit. I'm not an expert, but like a lot of what we call mental illness are just extreme versions of traits that all humans experience. And when it crosses a certain threshold,
it's categorized as mental illness.
Right. Like anxiety and depression. Like, I don't know a single human being who has not felt depressed. That doesn't mean they've had clinical depression and been unable to get out of bed and been debilitated for months and years and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like the original feel. I don't know. I'm getting down a rabbit hole, but same with anxiety. It's like, I just think it's really easy to categorize something, and it's like, because it also makes us feel more sane and makes it feel like we can detach ourselves from it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't have an anxiety disorder. I'm not bipolar. I don't have borderline personality. I'm not depressed. I'm not this. I'm not that. It's like, yeah, but you have the seeds of all of it. We all do. And it's just too easy to like distance and other it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because that's the thing too about depression is like, you don't even realize that shit's going on until it's too late.
Right. Well, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I for a long period of my life, I like, when I was younger, I was like, I don't believe in depression. You just get sad sometimes. And then I got like actually depressed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I was wrong. I didn't know.
You meant sad sometimes for a very long period of time. Oh.
Yeah. Right. But it's like, I don't know. It's just all this shit where it's like, you know, again, I'm a big proponent of walks. And I'm a big proponent of all these exercise and meditation and all these things. And then you see those posts where it's like, yo, you can't just tell people who are depressed to like walk and meditate and exercise. Some people have chemical imbalances. And so it's like all this stuff. It's like, it's so nuanced. It's just way less black and white than that. Like, you know, it's true. Some people have extreme chemical imbalances, but if you just rely on pills, which are supposed to be a Band-Aid to help you overcome something.
You're never going to fix the initial,
right? Like,
not symptom, but
the root cause. Yeah. And it's like, what people don't talk about is like, yeah, okay, so maybe you have a chemical imbalance, but like, did you know that when you scratch a dog behind the ears, it releases endorphins? When you watch a scary movie and you see a spider, if I saw a spider crawling up your arm, it's going to release adrenaline in my body. So it's like, we can also influence chemicals. And it's like, it's just not like, it's just the same thing of like this whole, like, let's just put the solution outside of ourselves.
It's like if we could just get Kylie Jenner to Putin with a Pepsi, like fucking the war is going to be over, baby. Like,
those chemicals through Putin's body are going to be raging for that Pepsi.
You'll be back on that horse shirtless or bear. Was it riding a horse or a bear? There's a photo of him riding a horse shirtless.
Putin is probably a bear, knowing Russia.
Yeah, Putin.
I just wanted to bring up one last final thought before we got so far away from that crazy metaverse world.
Please.
Think about this. With all of the... So, like, there's a shit ton of real estate available throughout America right now. Just businesses not working out. And
brick
just
and mortar.
Just brick and mortars all over the place that are vacant, you know? With this metaverse, how long is it going to be till we start seeing those bigger warehouses and all that start being built with like tunnel or like walls and like pathways and
you
levels?
were talking to me about this.
And it's like all white or like not designed or anything.
A blank house.
Like a blank house.
Oh, where people can live VR shit?
Well, then you put on the goggles or whatever the VR shit is, like Apple Glass or whatever that's going to be coming out soon. Strap in. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen with that, but put on your goggles and then everything's painted around you. You could pay $10 and you go into the Roman Empire or whatever. Or pay $10 and you get to go walk around the jungle or whatever. You know?
Whoa.
Yeah, right.
That's gonna be fucking crazy.
And
that's
it's all
super
just,
cool.
It's all just like empty spaces.
Any investors listening to this want to hit me up? Let's fucking make some moves. Bing bow.
That's fucking sweet. That's really, really cool.
Isn't that like that's just a thought that's been in my mind for a while?
This is
now.
okay. So
I
this
haven't
is,
read this anywhere. This is straight from my mind. So if someone steals it, it's
someone
on
will.
me, I guess.
Someone will for sure.
It's the thought that I'm assuming
cool.
that's going to happen.
That is.
It could be an
cool,
original
though.
thought.
Well, but isn't the
something.
ultimate point of it though that you would have like those things where you can like run in place and move around and you don't actually have to go anywhere?
Somebody just posted that on Reddit the other day. They were like, I have one in my house and my buddy does too. And they're in Canada. And he was like, by the way, these are getting more cheap and this is going to be the future of gaming for everybody.
Well, that's because, I mean, that's where that original thought of these big warehouses and stuff originally came from, because the limitation with VR, yeah, you can put on these goggles, but you're limited to your space. If I were to put on the goggles in this room, it'd be like, you know, like what does that look like?
But if you're in like, I've seen those videos on like Facebook, if you're in like that, it's like a,
but yeah, if
it's
you
a
have that,
moving
treadmill
platform.
thing,
yeah. Well, because then you can go anywhere while not actually going. You just need a space the size of an
like
elliptical.
A 2x2,
yeah. That's crazy though.
But like to physically be able to walk, I think again, getting back to that, or like half step to reality, if you will, to be able to physically walk through it,
right?
As opposed to being strapped into this thing that's like,
but then it's like, you know what else is getting cheaper? Plane tickets. You could just fly to like, fucking
right.
wherever. Like, I don't know. I feel really mixed on all this stuff because I'm like, on one hand, it's like,
I'm not one way or the other either. Totally. It's fucking weird either way, but like, I feel like it's gonna be a.
It's because we're all wounded. Like, you know, like Facebook. Like we all know the dangers of social media, and we talk about it all the time.
Sure.
It's actually something that me and Trey have talked about in the like off the podcast. Like, damn dog, we need to stop talking about Instagram. You know what I mean? So it's like, but because we know the dangers of social media, when social media first came out, Instagram and all that shit first came out, no one was thinking this. Maybe people like Ted Bundy, or I'm sorry, not Ted Bundy, the Unabomber, because that was like his whole manifesto was anti-technology for these exact same reasons. But it's like now we know the dangers of it, so we're scared of the negatives that could come with it because we've seen the negatives now, and at the time nobody expected those negatives, so we're just like kind of scared of the unfathomable almost.
It's the shift from Web 2.0 to 3.0.
Well, again, the shift from Web 2.0 to 3.0 and into the future is amazing, and this is like the future. Like we are living through the most interesting time in human history, no doubt, and it's fascinating and it's brilliant. I always feel the need to remind myself, I guess, of like what I was saying, like this is very privileged.
Oh yeah,
like
you can't be so cynical.
Well, it's just no, we can be, we should be. We need both. We need people who are excited about the future and people who are skeptical. Otherwise, we're delusional. You know, it's like it's all good. But I just mean like, no matter how dope the metaverse is, like going back to the land in the U.S., you know, 90% of the population lives on 5% of the land in this country. Most of this land is empty. Where are the land rights grants and land use grants to like build community centers and homes and house the homeless? Like the metaverse can get really dope, and until it solves hunger and homelessness, I don't really give a fuck.
Right.
I mean, I do for myself as a person who wants to enjoy the highest levels of life and luxury and like it's cool as fuck. There's no denying it's cool, but it's just like I just feel like it has to be tempered with like but what about all this shit? All the people who aren't going to have access to that.
The actual issues going on in the world.
Well, that brings
and
me
they're
up.
both actual issues. But yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
the one issue being my fucking Oculus Rift isn't connecting to my computer, and one being that I don't have a place to sleep. So.
Right, right, exactly.
Well,
yeah, and it's not to not talk about it. I'm not trying to be like, again, I think all this shit is cool as fuck. I want the dopest technology in the world, just like everybody else.
Yeah, me too.
No,
I
it's
love
sick.
that
Like,
shit.
I'm really jealous that you have the haptic controller. Like, that sounds fucking sick. I'm
it's
on like
fun.
a Xbox One playing
Still kicking, baby.
Call of Duty.
I
when
got an Xbox
exercise.
in the other room. But yo, so like, okay, so this is a totally different thing, but it goes back to the whole entire Ghost of Tsushima thing. Like, and this
That sounds
goes to
super cool, by
dude.
the
It is
way.
a top 5 video games I've ever played in my life, and I've played a lot of video games.
Yeah.
But 2 things, or a slew of things. Where did I start? It was just here. Okay, so Bob Ross versus like the pictures of the floating world, which I don't know the translation of right now off the top of my head. Japanese influence versus American influence when it comes to art. Bob Ross paints fucking deers and trees and pine trees and shit, you know. Japanese art and like art from like other places of the world, totally different. So those are 2 people in 2 different places that are absorbing the world around them and creating completely different style art because of their influences.
Yeah.
You know, so then you have that. But then when I was playing this video game, Ghost of Tsushima, like you're on the island of Tsushima, which is like one of the islands of Japan, and it's like all about like fighting off the Mongols because it's like all in that time period when they were coming up and like the samurai and everybody like protecting their land.
That sounds super sick.
Dude, it's so awesome. But then like I look at maps because like I got a little curious. I was like, let me kind of figure out what the hell's like that actually looks like. Looked online, beautiful. But then I started looking at other places of Japan where like Tokyo and all this other stuff where it's like from border to border on each side, it's like grid, skyscraper, this, that. And I'm playing this video game and like as you're walking, like the camera angle's down low, the wind's blowing in my ears, like you can see my video game character like run his hands through the blades of grass because like he's enjoying his day during the sunset. And I'm like, that's so fucking beautiful. What happened to that? They poured concrete over all of it. It's like, you know, not necessarily that exact same spot, but like nature.
Yeah.
Then me and Trey are driving home from up north last weekend, and we're on the highway 23 or whatever. We were going all the way from Petoskey back, and like every time we pass through these small towns, I'm just like, Applebee's, this, that. No one's there. Nobody's there because of Corona. And then like, you know what? Chain restaurants like Applebee's, no one wants to pay for that shit. Guess what? We put down concrete and that habitat's gone. You know what I mean? Like, where do we have the regulations of like, because now brick and mortar's almost dead. And I hate to say it, but like Bezos, I don't need to go to the store. Bezos will just have that shit shipped to my house in 2 days. Yeah. And it's cheap. It's very cheap. It's cheaper than that. Yeah, there's a totally different conversation there. But it's like,
no, but for the end consumer, it's real.
Arborland. When is it until the day that like Michael's or any of those other places are just going to go out of business and like that place is just sitting there?
Well, I mean, there already are vacant places.
Oh yeah, it's like, okay, level it, put a community garden, but why? I own that land. I have the right to sell that to somebody. I don't want to make it for a community garden. I purchased that land with my own hard money. So like, where do you draw that line where it's like the regulations with the metaverse? What are we going to do to protect this or do that with like these things that we did at the time because we thought that they were all right, but because we didn't know what was going to happen in the future, we just wiped habitats, laid concrete. You know, nature's going to take forever to reclaim it.
For every 1 acre of subdivision complexes that you destroy, you get a square acre or a quarter acre to build back on.
What?
Problem solved.
There you go. Give everybody land. No, I mean,
yeah.
right,
But then you have to give them the land.
No. You tear down 1 acre of land. Boom. Forest. 0.25 of that acre. You build it back. Little metaverse, little square with the running machine on it.
Trey's like problem solved, baby.
Like a little. Actually,
well, your business can still make money.
0.25 acres is way too much. 4x4 plot of land.
4 foot by 4 foot.
You got like a little.
You get a whole fucking closet, bud.
Little like porta potty with just the VR thing
like,
that you just plug into.
No, okay, so
that's it.
I actually think that. All right, so in the most optimistic utopian world, wouldn't you say that it would be really cool if like a lot of shit that didn't need to occupy real land space became metaverse, and everyone had that little device so they're in their crib when they want to go to all these things. And then we like a lot of reforesting and a lot of like preserving natural lands. Like that would be sick, especially as we move away from
brick and mortar,
but also fossil fuels, and our energy sources change. So we don't need we don't need to dig up beautiful parts of the country and the world to like dig up fossil fuels. Like, I don't know. I think...
or like do lab grown meat. So when we drive through Wyoming, we're not driving for 6 straight hours on just cattle owned farmland that's inaccessible by humans and being destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, there's just like, I don't know. There's like you can always look at it dystopian or utopian. Yeah. And like, I want to be a realist as much as I can. But like, no, the potential for a positive future is really there, and it's really hard because we're inundated with negative shit, and there's a lot of fucked up scary things in the world, and we're way more aware of all the bad things. But it's like, think about money, think about NFTs, think about all laws of societies. At the end of the day, what exists is what humans collectively believe exists. Mm-hmm. And so if more people believe the world's going to be worse, it's going to get worse, and more people believe it's going to be better, it's going to get better.
And I think I'm just waiting for the Jetsons.
Yeah, dog, that sounds dope. But like going back to this, like I don't know. Because I feel like with the whole like nature versus like civil, like skyscrapers and all this shit, it's like, I don't know about you. I think both are fucking sick. Like as a human being,
I hate the city so much.
Dude, I don't know. I just went to New York City and I was like, wow, Manhattan is crazy. I went to fucking walking around. It's like, it's just, I'm glad it exists. I don't want the whole world to become that, but also like, dog, if I was living in the forest, where do we go? What's the...
Hawking Hills,
Ludington.
Yeah, like if I was living in the woods there at the dunes or whatever, and I never got to like see a fucking Wendy's,
you go crazy.
Exactly. Like I want both.
Yeah, that's why I love Ann Arbor, because I'm this close to the city and I'm this close to nature.
Yeah, and like that, but that's the yin yang of the fucking universe of all things in the world. It's like, we just want a balance, man.
Everyone wants their cake and eat it too. So,
but I think the technology makes it more possible if that's what we collectively decide we want.
It's one of those things that you just said. So you said becoming aware, and I think one of the things too, like Gen Z and Gen X are like way more aware, and they can see right through bullshit to the point where like total marketing techniques have shifted. Like I would really want to hear their take on some of these topics, because like maybe
any 10-year-olds want to hop on the podcast, shoot us DM.
No, but no, I do, dude. I've listened to podcasts where there are younger kids, like Bert Kreischer, his wife and his 2 daughters have a podcast, and I just listened to it the other day because I was just like kind of curious. And then their daughters were just talking about like MLK and like all this other crazy shit, and like Bert talks about it on his podcast. He's like, "Oh, my daughters are so fucking annoying," blah blah blah. But like, it's like, okay, so now I am listening to these kids who are younger, and they sound pretty fucking woke, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I'll talk about like my little brother, for example. Like when I was young, right? I come from like a very politically involved dad who's just hyper aware, and like he was like a revolutionary in Egypt fighting against the government.
A badass.
So I come from like being hyper aware of political things and caring about this since I was a little kid. It was cool in my world to care, and I had like this pride and ego when I was in elementary school to be the only kid who like wanted to talk about the elections and cared. Right? No one else gave a shit. The teachers were like, "Shut the fuck up and like drink your chocolate milk, dude."
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
But now my little brother and his girlfriend and their friends, like, they just know this shit casually. All this shit that was like to me a point of pride to be aware of, like you said, that's just normal. Yeah. They just know what's going on.
The information that's readily available at their fingertips. I mean, I just read this article today about all the little kids watching the war clips and stuff about the stuff that's happening in Ukraine and how that's really affecting shit. Like, how do you stop your kid from ingesting that content, because
that's so
it's
tough.
Everywhere.
That's so tough.
I saw this video because they're all over the internet right now because of Twitter and shit. There was it was a huge viral video that was going around, and they captured some Russian major, and they weren't sure if it was a Russian major, so they were like posting these videos, and they were trying to get his identity confirmed and stuff like that, and he was dead silent the whole time. But you know what these guys were doing? Like these Ukrainian soldiers, they sat him down, they took off his jacket, they checked his pockets, they put his jacket back on, they put a cigarette in his mouth, and they lit it, and they were talking to him and shit like that. And I was like, they're technically enemies, but they're like, here's your jacket, man. Here, I'll light that cigarette for you, you know? And it's just like, at a point, when do those humans just look at each other and be like, what the fuck are we doing here, man?
That's,
you know?
There was a...
I mean, that's a plea that the president of Ukraine just sent out, like,
yeah,
today.
There's
Like,
like,
just basically saying that, like, to all the Russian army people.
Well, they don't have any money.
The thing is, I mean, well, here's the
Russia's like got tanks without gas on the side of the road.
Right. No, I mean, that's the thing. Russia economically is a third world country.
Putin spending on too many yachts. Forgot he needed to fill up his tanks with gas.
But like what you just said, though, is like that happened Christmas during World War II.
Yeah, everybody stopped.
Everyone laid down their weapons and they all like had a meal together and like shared stories and smokes and drinks and chilled. And then the next day they went back to shooting each other. It's like humans are wild, man. Like, and it's just like
I want to tell.
I don't know.
I want to tell a small story after that.
But just on the like, I don't know, like the Ukraine thing. It's like we're also very selective. Like at the end of the day, it's usually like most people, right? Average people all want the same thing everywhere in the world. They want fulfillment and to not be depressed and unhappy, and they want like financial freedom and stability.
Just to have your hierarchy of needs met.
Yeah, and they want a family and friends, and they want to enjoy their lives, and they want to be important, and they want to have good experiences. Like that's true of everyone everywhere, right? Other than political leaders who are jaded and corrupt and like,
yeah,
you know, and some of them are like that too. But they just that's their way of getting importance. But it's like, I just think it's important also. Like we're super selective about what we talk about and care about, right? Like, and it's not, it makes sense because like, you know, Russia and the United States as nuclear powers, and it's like, but yo, like what about fucking Palestine, Syria, Yemen, especially the largest famine event in history? It's like, but it's just not exciting. So it's like we focus our it's like, I don't know. And at the same time, you also don't want people to like drown in it and get depressed and just be like, wow, like that's the other thing. It's like, how can I say on one hand, don't be jaded and depressed, but also like look at all this bad shit.
That's what I struggle with.
And like what you were saying about like, what do you do with little kids? And it's like, you know, my immediate emotional reaction to that is like, on one hand, wow, that's super fucked up that these kids are exposed to that. And then on the other hand, I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty good that they're finding out about what the real world is like. As long as someone's there to be like, no, but it's okay. You don't have to go to the darkest thing possible, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like what you're bringing up too with like how people aren't really like shedding the light on like Palestine or like the stuff that's going on in North Korea or like any of these other companies that are like
in the United States.
Other countries that are just like in the shithole, like just as bad, or not to decredit anything that's going on over there, but like that there are all these other issues that just aren't getting that shed of light. But
and poor people everywhere.
Yeah, and famine everywhere and just like all that stuff. So but one of the things that I wanted to bring up with just like the little kid consuming all this is like with the Iraq war and stuff going on, like there wasn't social media like that. People weren't documenting that war on their cell phones and all that. I mean, maybe like on your Nokia like flip phone, but like, you know, I mean, to where now we're seeing information in like video clips faster than like news outlets and journalism posts and all this stuff because it's people on the front lines with iPhones and all this shit in their hands.
Humanitarian aspect, so it brings like a lot of empathy for it. Like you can understand it because you're there.
Yeah, well, and at the same time, if you look back, the last time that people saw real, like it's actually really interesting how technology comes full circle because what happened in the Vietnam War, right? Like that was the first time and the last time that because television was new.
Oh, the war was televised?
The war was televised, and that's why everyone
that was
protested.
The first time and the last time.
Right, the U.S. government's... Now, when you see war on news, on media, on television, what you see is, like, pictures of troops walking by a tank or a video of just, like...
You don't see a mortar, like...
No, you don't see... Dude, in that 1971 doc on Apple TV, it was, like... It literally, like, they explain, like... Yo, you were like a high, and everyone was on acid at the time too.
Dude, everybody was on heroin and shit too.
Well, the soldiers were, but I'm talking about kids in America were on acid, watching TV and seeing like napalm burned children and women and like bodies, and it's like so everyone went out in the streets and protested.
Vietnam was so fucked up. And the massive rapes and pillages that would go on and shit.
That happened in the Iraq War too. Yeah. The U.S. soldiers did that in the Iraq War. Every soldier does that. And it's like that's the thing is
every
it's
soldier does it.
No, but like
it's not an abnormal thing for wars.
Well, and I mean, actually, it talks about that in that series where it's like it's just like this psychological thing, like the Stanford prison experiment. When you put someone in a position of power, like how they think and act changes, and you lose sight of your humanity and shit.
At the end of that, they were like, "Yo, my bad, dude. That was all good." They're like, "What? I'm gonna beat your ass after this."
But like that whole thing. So it's like I don't know. It's interesting that like we come from that in history, but like. Is it like if you're a middle class suburban parent in America who's like safe, living in the richest superpower in the world?
Oh yeah,
you're like the superpower in the Hunger Games. Like I don't want my kids to see all these bad things.
Hear shit.
Yeah, I get that sensibility, that protective urge, but at the end of the day, it's like. Dog, like maybe it's not a bad thing that kids saw what was happening in fucking Vietnam and then protested and ended the fucking war.
Yeah, like that's the thing I struggle with my parents all the time. That's a valid point. Or like older people in my life, especially ones that are like very comfortable.
Right.
You try to talk to them about anything and they're just like, yo, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that shit. Like, why is every time you come around it's negative or this or that? And it's just like, yeah, my bad. I'm just trying to talk about my anxieties, bro.
And talk about what's real. Yeah. But it's like
bad.
It's interesting.
I'm coming to you for advice because you're like my elder and shit. My bad.
And you don't want to talk about it.
Sorry.
Yeah. But now we're coming full circle where all of a sudden everything they tried to prevent with television in the 60s and 70s with the Vietnam War, you can't stop someone with their cell phone unless you shut down the internet.
Nope.
So now we're having that whole same thing happen again. But you can't. Fucking Biden can't call Twitter and tell them to turn their shit off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's just, but you're right. It's like, yeah, it's all fucked up, but it's all good. It's like, that's the challenge as human beings. Can we both see what is bad and look at it honestly and not be afraid to look at it, but also remain joyful in our own individual lives and positive? Like, that's the thing. When you look at a lot of people in the civil rights movement, in a lot of movements, Nelson Mandela, right? People who like dealt with the worst shit and lived it. Now, it wasn't hypothetical. They didn't see it. They lived it and came out loving, kind, gentle human beings who cared. It's like, that's the fucking goal.
Yeah.
That's the fucking goal. And we're sitting here like, I saw that meme of like, it's like a woman, like a white lady at like a stand-up desk with like all her plants in her office, and it's like, quote, "I'm tired of living through historic times." It's like, we can't even handle looking at this shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, that's where it's like, you know, yeah, we are fucking soft. It's because we grew up in a superpower.
You turn off your social media, you just won't experience any of that shit.
Right. And dude, like,
and then people will call you ignorant and be like, "You're not doing your part."
Well, it's really tough because, like, I don't know.
What do you want me to do?
You know, I remember when at the end of Trump's presidency, after the insurrection, it was like I was on January 21st when nothing went wrong at the inauguration.
Oh yeah.
You're
like,
and I was someone who was saying to my mom, right, who's someone who like was not very politically interested most of her life, but the whole Trump thing fired her up and she became like a fucking activist in a super dope way. And like my perspective to her, part of me was like, yeah, Mom, it's awesome. And then I was like, yo, but also like you have the privilege of just starting to care now.
Yeah,
Black people in America haven't had the choice, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, so I was saying like, yeah, well, I hope we don't all check out from caring about politics just because Biden gets in office as if that's going to solve anything.
Yeah.
But then me as a human being who was mentally and emotionally exhausted and drained from looking at the news 10 hours a fucking day, as soon as the inauguration went good, I was like, oh, cool. I'm not watching this for like
I don't need
a month.
Check in on my president every fucking day.
Right. And it's tough because now I'm like, well, sometimes I want to be involved and aware and I want to know what's going on, but I also don't want to drown in it. And that's the hard balance.
One of the
things
that I would do to keep me grounded before Trump, and it was like a technique that I have, like, if you come into my house, and a lot of people know this, there's always NPR playing in my house. Like,
whoa, my mom does that.
It might be playing downstairs right now. I mean, it should be. It's always on. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have live TV anymore. I can only stream. But there's this weird thing about live TV that I liked, where it was like I'm seeing the same thing the rest of the world is seeing right now. Like, I'm involved. I'm there. You know, I feel grounded. Like, time is ticking because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's driving to work, and I'm waking up, making my coffee, and I hear like them talking at NPR, and I'm like, like I'm in the world. But then when Trump came out, like and it also helps me wake up in the morning because like I know like if they're talking, everybody else is doing their shit. I'm like wake up, like get the fuck out of bed. Like people are up, get moving, boy. So then like when Trump was, I stopped listening to NPR. Like I couldn't fucking have it turned on in my house anymore because it was so bad for me. Like it was just one of those things where I was
stressed
like,
and negative.
so then I turned it to the classical music channel, and then for like 3 years there was classical music playing in my house all the time. And it's just not NPR. And now like it is a little. It's getting back to it now, especially because COVID is kind of one of those things. But like that was when I started to get kind of sad, and I was like, damn, like I can't even fucking have NPR playing in my crib anymore because I'm just making me feel like shit.
It's hard, and it goes back to that thing you said that one of those podcast guys talk about, where it's like a first world problem is a first world problem. We have to be aware of that, but it's also a real problem.
Oh, David Cho, like, yeah, those are baby problems, but they're my fucking problems.
Right. Like, and it's true. It
doesn't not affect my daily life.
And a lot of the people I know who are like the most extreme, like you have to know everything that's going on in the world and care about all of it, which is true. We do. Mm-hmm. They get lost in it and become jaded and depressed. They're unhappy. And it's like, dude, like what's the point of progress if you're going to be miserable and only focus on the bad things? That's not winning.
You're a martyr.
That's not good for anyone. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, how do we remain unjaded and hopeful?
Yeah.
And joyful? Like that's the fucking, without turning a blind eye and being like the fucking rich people in the Hunger Games. Like we are them. We are. We're not becoming. Yes. We've been that for 50 years.
I saw this video on Reddit where like there's this American in like India, and he was just like walking around like taking videos of the market, and some guy was like, "Where are you from?" And he was like, "America." And immediately he like points back and he's like, "Don't film me, like terrorist country, like fuck America, all this stuff."
Dude.
And then immediately in the comments, everybody's like, "I mean, like that's us." Unfortunately, the rest of the world sees us like that because like, they're close to countries that are getting bombed by drone strikes daily for this or that, or like oil or famine or other things like that happen in the other parts of the world because we're just eating it all up. And then this guy was videotaping. He's like, "I'm not a terrorist." And he was like, "You're from America, like bad country, evil country." And it's just like,
dude, but it's like
you're right.
But again, there's two sides to it. It is true. It is true. But at this, like, I remember talking to my dad, right, who's from Egypt, like a real poor country with a bunch of fucked up shit going on, and a police state where they beat your ass first and ask questions later, and like, I remember him telling me from that perspective the view on America, because he's very critical of America, right?
Yeah.
As everyone should be, as we all should be. As James Baldwin said, what is it? I insist on the right to criticize America because I love her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've never heard that.
James Baldwin is the fucking one. But no, like hearing him talk about it, the 2 points he made was like, he was like the beautiful thing about America, like our whole thing about freedom and individualism,
opportunity
is real. Like that's not like there's a downside, and we can't use that to whitewash everything and ignore the bad things. But that shit is real.
The opportunity. Like, some of the hardest working people come from the worst countries, and they come over here and they're like, "Oh, I can actually do it if I go to work or do this or that or go to school or like put in the effort."
There's
like,
real
you're telling
opportunity.
Me like 4 to 5 years of my life of hard work can change my life forever.
Right. There are people
because people in other countries put in the same amount of work and go to the same jobs and work harder and make pennies, nothing. Yep.
And it's like, but like I remember my dad saying when he put in perspective, he said this. I don't know why this cut so deep for me. He was just like, the United States is looked up to and had like, we are the world's biggest empire right now, right? We have more military bases than there are countries. I think it's insane how. But the truth is, what was so inspirational and crazy is that like the U.S. The United States of America was the only country in the world that fought the British Empire and won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think about what that actually means.
Because the British Empire had been conquering forever.
Right. Like, and like, I'm someone who, especially now.
And those are just like, a bunch of drunks with rifles.
Right.
Like a bunch of 1776ers. Right. Hell yeah.
And like, and you can look at like, our tribe, like the progressive left, like my side of the table, right?
Yeah.
We're all very critical of the founding fathers, as we should be.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not good people.
But the vision and the ideal that they set out with is amazing. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they successfully founded a country based on that. They fucked it up, of course.
Yeah.
They're fucking it, right? There's problems. But the ideal is amazing. Mm-hmm. It's like we live in that. And it's like, we're just trying to get closer to that. And that's cool as fuck. So it's like, I don't know. It's just so hard to make. It's like, I don't know. My favorite quote in the last year has been like, what is it? It's like, can't we walk and chew bubblegum? Can't we hold two thoughts in our mind at the same time? It's like both of these things are true. Mm-hmm. Evil empire, greatest hope for the world.
Yeah. There's like so many there's so many things about that. Like, can you listen to the artist even though like some bad shit happened in their life and they're canceled or something like that? You know, there's so many parallels to that. Yeah. But we did break the record.
Fuck
but before we go,
confetti.
Before we go, there's a couple things here that I want people to take away from this podcast. One, anger cyclical. So like it goes cyclical. Is that the word?
Anger?
Yeah. That's the word. Yeah. So cyclical. That's the right word. Yeah. Everything goes in a circle. So if Nadim's having a bad day and he passes it to me, I'm just going to keep the cycle going and like, you know, just cut that shit, like end it.
Until you choose to break it. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to break the cycle, first of all. Second of all, like what Nadim said, anger is a poison that you carry around hoping somebody else dies. When you, what is it?
It's what is the quote? It's like resentment is like drinking. Yeah, being angry, hateful, or resentful is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah. Then it's really just hurting you.
Yeah.
And other than that, just try to stay up.
Can I
stay positive? Yeah, go for it.
Can I say one thing on that point?
Yeah.
That the anger, resentful thing, because the hardest lesson that I've been trying to learn in my life is I don't want to be angry and resentful and drink the poison, but I also need to be able to set boundaries.
Yeah,
and do what's right for me. And it's like so easy to tie them together and be like, what? So I'm just supposed to let people walk all over me, or no, I'm allowed to be an angry asshole because of this. It's like,
or like Mike Tyson said, you let them win just because you set a boundary,
right?
Like, what?
But it's like no, like it's just I'm trying so hard every day to learn. Like I can set the boundary. I can do what I need to do for me without becoming angry and resentful, or I can become angry and then let it go.
You gotta have love.
Yeah, it's
listen
tough.
to some Jimmy and get some Axis Hold'em love in there, bro. But other than that, just try to fucking chill and be as empathetic as you possibly can because everybody's going through it.
Beautiful.
Other than that, that's gonna end that. Nadim, plug yourself real quick. Oh yeah, by the way, also for everybody listening, if you didn't realize from this podcast that Nadim is like a super like awesome guy to talk to just because of the way that he thinks and talks and his brain works, he's also a musician like we talked about, and his album's coming out soon.
I put it all in song. Okay, yeah, so the album comes out over the summer. I've got a couple singles out. I'm basically dropping a song a month until the summer, and then I'll have a whole album, and I've already got the next album.
Is your work on Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify, anywhere music can be found. My shit can be found.
Bandcamp?
Yeah.
Good.
He got me on the one. I need to. The Bandcamp will be set up before the album is out. But
what about Napster?
Probably.
Nobody uses that shit.
I think I'm distributed through there.
Yeah.
Find my shit on LimeWire, bro.
Yeah, bro. Find that shit on LimeWire. No, get on the train early. Listen to the music now. I'm excited to look back on this podcast in 10 years.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be
awesome.
Fun. And that's why I want to keep doing this shit.
Think about how much better we're going to be.
Yeah.
Think about how much we'll have grown.
Yeah. But yeah, what's your Instagram? Plug all that shit.
Oh, Nadim.music. Nadim is Nadim. .music. I need to start wearing like a shirt that has like a QR code so I can just point it to every camera.
You changed that from Nadim Azzam to Nadim.music?
Nadim.music. No. It's Nadim.music. I changed it like a year ago.
Okay.
I want to, what was the thing Kanye said? I'm trying to get to the point where I drop my last name and they just call me Ye. I want to get to the point where they just call me Nadim, but right now I'm Nadim Azzam.
You actually do have the ability to do that because it's like, what's her name? Zendaya in Euphoria?
Yeah. Oh, the episode's tonight. I'm about to go watch the season finale.
If you look at the credits,
I was about to say that.
If you look at the credits on the show or the opening credits, it doesn't say like it's Jonathan Downing. It just says Zendaya. Like it doesn't even have her last name.
She's
it's so
fucking
sick
baller
because she's so fucking iconic, and she has a name like Zendaya. Like wait until Nadim.
Oh, the time is coming. Oh, that's fucking so good to hear.
Cool?
With that radio voice. That's right.
Nadim.
Did you guys know Drake was an executive producer on that? On Euphoria?
Dude,
I wonder how much he's
Degrassi
actually
champ.
involved. But yeah.
He's the champ.
I wonder if he's just cutting the check.
Yeah.
Here's some wardrobe money.
Or like doing the music supervising, like picking the songs and shit. The music on that show is sick as fuck.
I've been searching for that song with those like vocals for so
James
long.
Blake.
No, it's not that one. It's this different one that is like Euphoria's song that I can't find anywhere.
Dude, okay, there's one guy, I forgot his name, I looked it up, who does like almost all of the music for Euphoria. Like, you know, in the episode a couple episodes ago, there was
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth, yes. Yeah. And he did the song in the church with the piano.
Yeah. That song is
so
it's in that
beautiful.
episode.
You're talking about the one with the all white church?
The one
where he sings and performs in the church.
Yeah.
That's when I stopped watching that
song.
show because it was like so anxiety triggering for me. And
bro,
like,
this shit is really heavy.
like,
Have you come from the backgrounds we come
it's
from?
Flashbacks.
Exactly.
It's really dark.
I stopped
and
watching
really
it.
heavy.
I haven't seen it since like episode 4 just because I was like, this show makes me want to cry every time I watch it because I think about all my shit.
Well, it's weird because a lot of people I know who are in recovery really like it, and I'm like, that's weird. It's like living a war
Triggering
story.
as fuck.
Yeah, but for me, it's like, I don't know. I'm able to get really into it because I just like it's just such a good show, like artistically.
It's so amazing, and that's why I wish that
swag.
That's why I wish that I could get into
like
it.
I remember when Natalie and I were watching it, I was like, just like, yeah, bro. Like, I guess for people who haven't lived this is like interesting and entertaining.
It makes
for
like
me, it's like, this is dark.
No, yeah,
this
like
reminds
makes
me
me
of
feel
my
like I want to
friends.
throw up, and like
Yeah.
my shoulders are super tense, and when I get done watching it, I don't feel good, and I'm just like,
Yeah. But apparently,
brings back some dark times.
Yeah,
it
for
does.
sure.
Damn.
But the guy who, I mean, but thank God we're not there. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But the guy who wrote it apparently lived a lot of that shit, which is why it's so. I mean, that shit's real.
That white
it's so
director
well done.
who speaks like this.
Is that what he taught?
Is he Aussie or something?
I don't know. He's fucking dope. That's what he is.
He's cool. But
Yeah. Anyway,
okay,
go
we're
watch
getting outta
Euphoria.
here.
Listen to my album. Love you guys.
Yeah. Nadim Azzam. Love you guys. Peace out.
Peace.